The life of a ninja beginning in the Hidden Mist village. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Experiment. Okay, I'll help you clear the flowers and pick out the relatively intact bones. You can slowly identify which one is Yuan Yelin. After saying that, Terumi Mei held the popsicle and turned to a cluster of flowers next to her. She didn't want to touch those unlucky things too much. It would be better to throw the task of carefully identifying the identity of the bones to Qishuang. Then, Qishuang also held the popsicle and searched in the opposite direction. Whoosh! The popsicle swept past and flattened a cluster of flowers that was half a foot high in an instant, and the white bones underneath were immediately exposed. The skeleton on the top was very scattered, with arm and leg bones missing, and several ribs in the entire chest cavity were missing, and there were traces of wild beasts gnawing. It was estimated that the body should have been destroyed by wild wolves after being thrown away. Qishuang used the popsicle to clear it and set her eyes on the other two bones below. Unfortunately, the two bones were also very broken and destroyed beyond recognition. Obviously, it couldn't be Yuan Yelin. But he did not give up. There were so many corpses here. It would be a stroke of luck to find Yuan Yelin so easily. Then, he continued to use the popsicle in his hand to sweep the flowers and search for corpses. 2 hours passed quickly, and the flowers in a radius of nearly 100 meters were also swept by the two. Terumi Mei found 2 relatively complete corpses, but she did not move rashly. She just used the popsicle in her hand to carefully push away the surrounding corpses and isolate them. It was considered a mark. Qishuang found 3. Like Terumi Mei, he also just pushed away the other scattered corpses around and isolated them. At this time, Terumi Mei stopped sweeping the flowers and looked at the mist in front and said, "It seems that something is coming." Hearing this, Qishuang also stopped and carefully sensed the surrounding environment. He found that dozens of unknown creatures were slowly approaching from all sides and surrounded them in the middle. As the unknown creatures got closer and closer to them, pairs of eyes with green light appeared in the mist. "It's a pack of wolves." Terumi immediately judged the figure that was vaguely like a big dog in the mist. It seems that it has been quite a long time since the last time a corpse was dumped in the village. Qishuang slammed the popsicle into the ground and said meaningfully while looking at the wolves. He saw a desire for food in the eyes of the wolves. As for the food, it was obviously the two of them. It is very likely that it was too long since the last time a corpse was dumped in the village, which led to the hungry guys targeting them. Just a few wolves. Watch how I deal with them. Terumi put the popsicle aside and immediately prepared to seal and cast a spell. "Wait." Qishuang called her. "Huh?" The girl turned around in surprise. "Don't do it. I have a spell that I want to try on them," Qishuang said very seriously while looking at the wolves that were slowly approaching. After hearing his words, Terumi loosened her hands that were forming hand seals and waved them, saying, "Whatever you want." Then, she saw Nana Frost flipping her fingers and forming a very complicated series of hand seals. It was a set of hand seals that she had never seen her use before, and it was obviously a new ninjutsu. At the same time, she also noticed that Nana Frost released a large amount of ice attribute chakra into the air, which greatly reduced the temperature around her. "Congeal." Nana Frost, who had finished forming hand seals, shouted softly, stretched out her right hand, and aimed at the wolf pack in front of her, and clenched it in the air. Terumi immediately saw a layer of ice condensed on the feet of the slowly approaching wolves, and the ice quickly spread all over the body. In the blink of an eye, many of the surrounding wild wolves were frozen in it. However, only a small number of wild wolves were completely frozen, and the other half only had their forelegs frozen. But after struggling desperately, they broke the ice on their legs, tucked their tails, and fled into the mist with fear and screams. "You haven't completed this technique yet, have you?" Terumi slowly walked towards a frozen wolf and continued, "But it's not bad. If you can freeze a target from a distance, it must be a very advanced restricted ninjutsu if you really master it." She clearly felt that Nana Frost's chakra spread into the air, covering the entire wolf pack. but in the end, only a small part of it was actually frozen. Obviously, this was an unfinished ninjutsu. Walking closer, looking at the frightened and unable to move wolf under the ice, Terumi curiously knocked on the wolf's head. Crack. A crisp sound came, and a small crack appeared at the place where she hit. She had never expected that the ice made by Nana Frost this time would be so fragile that it broke with a slight knock, accompanied by a series of popping sounds like frying beans. The crack she knocked out quickly spread to the wolf's body. Seeing that the hungry beast was about to escape, she immediately stepped back. Bang! The ice broke, and the wolf escaped. At this moment, a dark shuriken passed through the gap in the broken ice and pierced its throat. The wolf wailed and fell to the ground. It was Qishuang who took advantage of the moment when the wolf escaped and ended its life. I say, what's wrong with your ice? How come it breaks when you hit it? Looking at the boy who was walking over, Terumi raised her eyebrows and questioned. At the same time, she also recalled the wolves that had their forelegs frozen and still broke through the ice to escape. With the hardness of Qishuang's ordinary ice, even if only forelegs were frozen, those beasts could not break and break free. This is too strange. Looking at the other frozen wolves on the ground, Qishuang said slowly, my technique is not intended to freeze the target. The success you see is actually my failure. Hearing this, Terumi was confused and said, didn't you successfully restrict their actions? Why do you say it's a failure? Qishuang looked at a frozen wolf carefully and continued, the purpose of my technique is indeed to restrict the opponent's actions, but it does not restrict the opponent through the freezing effect. The freezing effect you see is actually the result of my operating error, so the hardness of the ice is not very strong. Because this is not my original intention. If he restricts the opponent with the freezing effect, he already has the ice freezing technique. He only needs to use it with water escape to restrict the opponent remotely. There is no need to work hard to come up with such an ninjutsu to freeze the opponent in the air. Then what is the result you expected? Terumi asked curiously. Qishuang looked at the ice sculptures in front of her, pointed behind her, and whispered, look behind you, that's the result I want. Terumi turned around and saw a bunch of similar wolf ice sculptures behind her, which were no different from the ones in front. But Qishuang said that there were successful results here, so she had to patiently look at them one by one. Then, a wild wolf that was not frozen and motionless appeared in her eyes. Chapter 252 Stop. What's going on? With doubt in her mind, she approached the motionless wolf cautiously. She saw its bloody mouth open, hunting, like a sculpture, motionless, dead. She curiously put her finger to the wolf's nose, but found a warm airflow hitting her hand. This wolf is not dead yet. What surprised her even more was that, although this wolf was alive, there was no life in its eyes, and it looked very dull, completely different from the other guys who were frozen, and their eyes were still rolling around. It was alive, but almost dead. Did you use an illusion on it? Turning her head, Terumi asked the boy tentatively. It's somewhat similar to illusions, but not quite the same. Nanashiro walked over slowly, shook her head, and continued. This is also a ninjutsu that acts on the opponent's brain, but it is different from illusions that disrupt the opponent's brain chakra to create illusions. It is a ninjutsu that uses low temperature to reduce cell activity and hinder nerve conduction. As he said, he turned and asked, do you remember the last time when the captain and Zabuza were seriously injured? When the three-tailed Jinchuriki was recovered, I used ice escape to cool them down and delay the onset of their injuries? Yes. Terumi nodded. She still remembered that the medical ninja who treated Zabuza and the captain said that, if it weren't for Nanashiro's ice escape to cool down, reduce cell activity, and delay the onset of injuries, the two would not have been able to return to the camp for treatment. Nana Frost continued, it was from that time that I thought about using this low temperature to reduce the activity of cells and develop a ninjutsu. That's the origin of this ninjutsu. The pile of rabbit meat I gave you before was the sacrifice of this ninjutsu experiment that failed. Hearing this, Terumi suddenly realized. Finally understood what ninjutsu Nana Frost practiced with rabbits. Then, she curiously poked the wolf's head again, and found that it didn't react at all. She sighed. But, your effect is too terrible. According to common sense, if you block nerve conduction, at most it will cause the opponent to move slowly, but it won't be motionless and have no reaction, right? Nana Frost slowly walked to the side of the wolf whose experiment was successful, and in Terumi Mei's surprised eyes, she kicked it to the ground, but it didn't react at all. Blocking the nerve conduction of the limbs or muscles will certainly not lead to this, but I blocked the nerve conduction in its brain area, Nana Frost said proudly with a raised mouth. Then, he stepped hard on the wolf's head, but the wolf still didn't react at all. He continued, whether it is human thinking or human activities, they are inseparable from nerve conduction. Once the nerve conduction in the brain is blocked, it means that the brain loses control of the body. Even the self-conscious thinking of the individual itself will be affected, becoming extremely slow or directly stopped. To put it simply, this is a way to stop time. Although I can't really stop time, I can use this ninjutsu to make the person who is hit by the technique feel like time has stopped, and lose the perception of the outside world for a short period of time, and even lose self-consciousness. So I killed them easily without any resistance. As he said, Nanashi took out a kunai and cut the wolf's neck lightly. The bright red blood gushed out, dyeing the ground red, until it could no longer spurt out, and the wolf also maintained its original posture, motionless. Terumi Mei even suspected that the wolf didn't know it was dead until its consciousness dissipated. Such a technique that makes people lose the ability to resist and even lose their self-awareness is really terrifying. How long does your ninjutsu last? She asked the boy solemnly. After wiping the blood from the kunai off the wolf's skin, Nanashiro said slowly, it depends on the person. Human chakra itself has a certain resistance to chakra ninjutsu. The stronger the person, the stronger the resistance to this kind of chakra ninjutsu that invades the body. In addition, my ninjutsu is not based on lethality, and there will not be too much chakra acting on the opponent, and this effect will be further weakened. Therefore, facing an opponent stronger than me, the effect of this move is very limited. Hearing this, Terumi Mei said bluntly, then won't you increase the chakra output? Nanashiro shook her head and smiled bitterly. The more chakra content in the air, the stronger its volatility will naturally be, and it will be easily detected by the opponent. I'm afraid that, before I can fully activate the technique, they will get away from it. Therefore, in order to ensure the hit rate of this move, I can't make the chakra concentration in the air too high. It must be evenly dispersed to reduce the chakra fluctuations and avoid the opponent's detection. For ninjas, judging the power of a technique based on the strength of the chakra fluctuations is also the most intuitive method. If you find that there is a large-scale chakra reaction around you, and you are not prepared to evade, you are really a fool. Therefore, it was destined from the beginning that his ninjutsu would not have substantial lethality. That's right. With the increase of chakra, the energy fluctuation will also increase, which will easily arouse the opponent's vigilance. Terumi Mei pinched her chin and said helplessly. Seeing this, Qishuang smiled and said, the technique has not been completely completed yet, so it's completely useless to think about these things. Let's wait until my technique is truly completed before considering these things. This was the first time he officially used it. Facing dozens of wild wolves, only one was truly hit by his technique. The rest all failed. If this ninjutsu is truly completed, all creatures covered by his chakra will have their time stopped, and there is no possibility of mistakes such as freezing. He still has a long way to go to complete this technique. After dealing with the attacking wolves, the two continued to sweep the flowers and search for complete corpses. Soon, the two found all the relatively complete corpses within a radius of 100 meters. Because wolves will eat corpses, except for those that completely rotted, before they could eat them, most of the corpses were destroyed by the wolves of the Blood Valley. There are not many truly intact skeletons. Qishuang roughly counted that he and Terumi Mei had turned out nearly 10 complete skeletons in total. After excluding those guys whose skeletons were larger than theirs, there were still 3 skeletons left in the field. After all, Yuan Yellen was the same age as them, and her stature was even shorter than they were now. Those guys whose skeletons were larger than theirs could not be Yuan Yellen. Then, Qishuang focused his attention on the smallest skeleton. Although nearly a year had passed, and the corpse had become a skeleton, the clothes on the corpse were not completely rotten. He felt that the clothes left on the corpse were very similar to the clothes Yuan Yellen wore when she died. Stopping time and freezing space, this effect is too buggy. After all, this is not a fantasy fairy tale, and it is impossible to write something that is made out of nothing. However, I can achieve a partial effect of stopping objective time by stopping human sensory time. As for sensory time, if you don't understand, you can watch the second season of Code Geass, Lelouch of the Rebellion. The ability of little brother Luo is to stop sensory time. Chapter 253 Bone Examination. More importantly, he saw a dull Konoha forehead guard on the corpse. That should be it, Nanashi said as he squatted down and looked at it. Terumi Mei crossed her arms and said uncertainly, it does look a bit like it, but it's already a skeleton after all. Can you tell its original appearance from the skeleton? Nanashi shook her head, stretched out her right hand to the skeleton, and said slowly, although the decay of the flesh will change its appearance, its chakra aura will not change. As he said that, he took a piece of finger bone in his hand. It's been nearly a year, and the chakra aura of the deceased must have been exhausted. It's impossible for you to tell it. Terumi Mei was still not optimistic. That's not certain. Looking at the finger bones in his hand, Qishuang smiled confidently and continued, compared to muscles, human bones are difficult to be digested by nature. Therefore, even after decades, these bones will not change much. As he said, he concentrated his chakra in his hand, exerted his strength, and bent it hard. With a click, the finger bone was instantly broken into 2 pieces. Because the bones change slowly, the bone marrow contained in them can be preserved for a long time. He added, the finger bones were broken, but no bone marrow flowed out. I think it should have evaporated slowly over the past year. Seeing this, Terumi chuckled and said, but there is not a trace of bone marrow left. So what should you do? Nanashi concentrated the chakra on the little finger, slowly inserted the fingertip into the broken part of the finger bone, and said calmly, the purpose of looking for bone marrow is just to detect the chakra aura in the bone marrow. At present, even if there is no bone marrow, there must be a part of bone marrow aura left in this bone cavity. With this, it is enough to identify the chakra of the deceased. As we all know, chakra is the product of the fusion of human spiritual power and cellular biological energy. Based on the uniqueness of each person, this also leads to certain differences in chakra for each person. No 2 people's chakra will be the same. Even twins will have subtle differences. In a sense, chakra is everyone's innate identity proof. Nanashi only met Irano Rin once, and was not familiar with her, so he did not remember her chakra aura, but he could distinguish the chakra aura of the tailed beasts. The chakra of the 9-tailed beasts is completely different from human chakra, and it looks very violent and fierce. As long as it is confirmed that the dead body has the aura of tailed beast chakra, then the owner of the skeleton is self-evident. Then, he turned the chakra on his fingertips into tiny probes, and extended them deeper into the finger bones. Then, an extremely violent and fierce aura was transmitted through the chakra, and fed back to his mind. Pulling his finger out of the half finger bone, he looked at the white bones next to him and said confidently, it's her. She is Hirano Rin. Terumi Mei showed an unbelievable look. Nanashi pointed to the Konoha forehead guard on the skeleton and said slowly, this size of bones, Konoha's identity, plus the aura of tailed beast chakra I sensed in her bone cavity, it should be correct. You don't think that the body of Konoha's Jinkriki will be thrown here for us to deal with? After saying that, he winked at the girl jokingly. That's true. Terumi pondered for a while, and felt that there were not so many coincidences. It doesn't make sense. They just happened to find a guy of similar age and size, who was born in Konoha, and had the aura of the tailed beast chakra, and was not Hirano Rin. Then, Nanashi concentrated the chakra in his hands, changed the nature of water, and created a ball of water in his hands. After washing his hands again, he dispersed the water ball, took out a blank sealing scroll from his pocket, opened it, and covered Hirano Rin's bones. He quickly formed a set of hand seals, pressed his palm on the sealing scroll, injected chakra into it, and shouted softly, seal. A burst of white smoke rose from under the scroll, and Hirano Rin's bones disappeared out of thin air. The scroll fell to the ground empty, and he sealed it into the scroll and preserved it. Okay, let's go back. After putting away the sealing scroll, Nanashi called to the girl next to him. Meditarumi looked at the scroll he had put away and said in confusion, even you took so much effort to figure out the identity of this skeleton. If you meet that person again, how can you convince him that this skeleton is Rinyu and I? I don't believe it. He will give you a chance to explain slowly. After all, the skeleton is very different from Rinyu and I herself in terms of visual perception. It is hard for her to believe that this skeleton can still play the same role as last time. Qishuang motioned the girl to follow and said as she walked, to fully utilize the role of this skeleton, we need the help of another person. Who is the other person? Meditarumi followed quickly and asked curiously. Qishuang looked up at the dark sky and said slowly, that person's whereabouts are uncertain. I don't know where he is for the time being. It's no use to say it now. Let's talk about it later. Meditarumi kicked the stone on the ground angrily and muttered, mysterious, just keeping us in suspense all day long. Hearing this, Qishuang didn't dare to respond and could only keep on going. The person who could help him fully utilize the bone power of Yuan Yellen had a strange personality and was somewhat dangerous. Telling him about it would only cause Ming to worry, so he could only choose to keep silent. On the way back, because they were familiar with the route and had achieved their goal, both of them were in a good mood and quickly left the valley. However, when they entered the village, they ran into a group of Kaguya people who had just been driven out of the village and were cursing. Not daring to get too close to the group of crazy people who were angry, Nanashiro took Meditarumi to one side and caught a mist ninja and whispered, "Hey, what's the matter with those Kaguya guys?" The man glanced at the noisy Kaguya people and gloated, those brainless guys had a quarrel with the 4th generation today, so they were driven out. Quarrel? What was they quarreling about? Meditarumi came forward and asked. The man slowly recalled, I heard that it seems that the group of guys bullied the 4th Hokage because he was young and wanted to force the 4th Hokage to agree to their return to the Hidden Mist village, but the 4th Hokage was not happy, so he quarreled with them. Look, they were directly driven out of the Hidden Mist village. As he said that, he glanced at the Kaguya clan members. They were covered with white bone spikes and were confronting the guarding ninjas of the Hidden Mist village. The whole scene was very tense. Return to the village? At this time, Nanashi also recalled that during the battle for the Mizukage, the pufferfish demon had promised the Kaguya clan to return to the Hidden Mist village. It should be that the pufferfish demon was defeated and the Kaguya clan had no hope of returning. Seeing that the 4th Hokage was young, he had evil thoughts. Chapter 254 Attributes. Unfortunately, although Yagura is young and still a child, he has considerable martial power. It is impossible to use force. The guys of the Kaguya clan, who are full of calcium in their heads, have completely miscalculated. Originally, if they had used soft and hard methods, considering Yagura's inexperience, he should still be able to obtain permission to return to the Hidden Mist village. Unfortunately, their methods were wrong. As more and more Hidden Mist ninjas arrived at the entrance of the village for support, the Kaguya side saw that the situation was not good, so they had to put away the bone spurs and turned away cursing. A small storm was thus eliminated. Then, Nanashiro brought Meditarumi into the Hidden Mist village. Because this Mizukage, Yagura, was a neutral person, and he himself was not interested in government affairs, he did not interfere too much in the affairs of the Hidden Mist village. The entire village is still maintained as in the era of the 3rd generation, with no changes. This is what most people want. Because the war has stopped, the Mist ninjas have nothing to do, except accepting the missions assigned by the superiors, and gradually became idle. Although the Hidden Mist village can receive missions from all over the world every day, the Hidden Mist village has tens of thousands of ninjas under its jurisdiction, and the other 4 major villages share the traffic. Therefore, the top leaders of the Hidden Mist village cannot guarantee that every ninja is always on duty. In general, the Mist ninjas are much more idle than during the war. Nanashuang also took advantage of this rare free time to study his own ninjutsu. Ice Escape is his innate ability, and in this Ice Escape, it also contains the nature changes of Water Escape and Wind Escape. If you want to strengthen the power of Ice Escape, you naturally need to have a good understanding of Water Escape and Wind Escape. With the relationship of his innate Ice Escape, he has long learned the related Water Escape, but he has never had time to study Wind Escape. After recovering the bones of Yuan Yellen, he began to practice wind escape. As for Meditarumi, who is on the same team, she is still struggling with the bonfire in the training ground, hoping to comprehend the secret of fire from the bonfire, so as to learn the nature change of fire attributed chakra, and practice fire escape ninjutsu. However, her innate ability is dissolution escape, which includes the nature change of water and soil, but not the nature change of fire. Therefore, when practicing the nature change of fire attributed chakra, she cannot get the help of her innate ability. In addition, once the chakra attribute change is successfully practiced, it will affect the attribute bias of one's own chakra. Even if one does not change the chakra attribute, one's own attributeless chakra will also have some attribute characteristics. However, these characteristics are relatively small, and not enough to reflect obvious attribute changes. It looks like it has no attributes, but in fact it is still different from the real attributeless chakra. If a person's attributeless chakra is compared to a blank piece of paper, then the process of practicing attribute changes is like writing and painting on a blank piece of paper. After all, the area of a person's blank paper is limited. The more attribute changes one learns, the less blank space there is on the blank paper, and the less content can be added. Therefore, after every ninja learns the chakra attribute change, it will become more and more difficult to master a new change. For ordinary people, it takes nearly a year to master the first attribute change, 2 to 3 years to master the second attribute change, and 3 to 5 years to master the third attribute change. Because mastering more attribute changes means more time, most ninjas will only have 2 attribute changes in their lifetime. Ninjas who can change 3 attributes are not common. Even those genin, because they have not been ninjas for a long time, and have no special talents, basically do not know attribute escape techniques. Of course, this is only for ordinary people. Bloodline limit ninjas like Nanashiro are born with one escape technique, and with a little effort, they can easily master the other 2 related escape techniques. With such a high starting point, it is naturally not easy to learn the 4th attribute change. You know, there are only a handful of ninjas in the entire ninja world who can change more than 4 attributes. The 3rd Hokage of Konoha was known as the Professor of Ninjutsu, because he was proficient in the 5 basic nature changes of wind, fire, earth, water, and lightning, as well as various secret techniques. In addition to the melting escape technique, Meditarumi also mastered the water escape technique and earth escape technique related to the melting escape technique. In total, there are 3 nature changes. It is easy to imagine how difficult it would be to learn this 4th nature change. Especially in recent days, Nana Frost found that her emotions were on the verge of an explosion, so he had to stay away from her and didn't dare to get too close for fear of being caught in the crossfire. One day, he created an ice pillar nearly 10 meters high. When he was standing on the top, feeling the airflow and comprehending the mystery of the natural wind, he heard the exasperated voice of Meditarumi from below. "I don't want to learn anymore. I'm so angry." Then, he heard another bang, and when he looked down, he saw that the furious Meditarumi had kicked the bonfire apart. Black charcoal and red flames were scattered all over the ground, and the ground was in a mess. Alas. Seeing this, he sighed helplessly and immediately slid down the icicle. Practicing the nature change of chakra is not an easy thing. "You are too impatient," he said slowly to the girl. Terumi Medi crossed her arms and said angrily, "But, it has been so long, and I still haven't found any clues about the change of fire attribute chakra. How can I not be anxious?" If there was a little progress, and she saw the hope of learning the change of fire attribute chakra, she would not lose her temper so much. However, after sitting and comprehending for such a long time, the blazing bonfire seemed to have burned away all her understanding of fire in her heart, leaving her with nothing. She didn't understand fire at all. After kicking a few sands to put out the flames next to her, Qishuang said with a smile, "You can't comprehend anything. Why don't you think about what characteristics fire has? Having a clear goal of perception is much easier than exploring the whole picture of fire aimlessly, right?" "Yes." After hearing his words, Meditarumi's eyes lit up, and she said happily, "I just need to find out the various characteristics of fire from the fire one by one, and use my chakra to simulate and express various characteristics." Finally, combine the various characteristics of fire. Isn't that fire? Then, the girl who found a way regained her spirits and quickly gathered the scattered fire pile again. She once again began to practice the transformation of fire attribute chakra. Seeing this, Qishuang stopped interfering and climbed to the top again along the ice pillar to continue to comprehend the mystery of natural wind. Compared with the difficulty of Meitarumi learning the transformation of fire attribute chakra, it was very easy for him to learn the transformation of wind attribute chakra. He had a hunch that his wind escape would be successful. At the end of the year, when the 4th generation came to power, the 3rd generation, who had just abdicated, died. According to the person who took care of the 3rd generation, they saw that he did not get up the next morning, and then they found that the old man had stopped breathing while lying in bed. The 3rd generation passed away very peacefully. Chapter 255 Changes. Kirigakure held a grand funeral for the 3rd generation. It was used to bid farewell to the old man, who had worked so hard for Kirigakure. You know, the 3rd generation was the god of the 1st generation. He had participated in the first 5-cage conference together and witnessed the 1st and 2nd generations in power. In addition to his own time and power, there was almost no one in the entire Kirigakure who was older than him. His death can be said to be a great loss to Kirigakure. No matter how dissatisfied the people below were with the 3rd generation, they would not deny the importance of the 3rd generation to Kirigakure and his past achievements. On this day, the entire Kirigakure was plunged into an unspeakable grief. With the death of the 3rd generation, the rebellion of the 2 bloodline limit families was gradually faded by time, and the reformists in the village emerged again. Because the previous turmoil had just subsided, they did not dare to make radical moves now, and they seemed very docile. In addition, the interests of all parties were involved, and the conservatives were not a monolithic group, so the top leaders of Kirigakure turned a blind eye to this. As long as the reformists did not touch their interests for the time being, they would not bother to waste their energy targeting them. There are even many people who cooperate with the reformists in private to seek benefits. After all, political struggles are not as real as benefits. Benefits are the root. As long as it is profitable, they can cooperate with anyone. This is also one of the survival rules of Kirigakure. You know, the weak cannot survive in Kirigakure. Only the strong can survive, which is also the creed of every Kirigakure ninja. Therefore, in order to become strong, they can do whatever it takes. Even if they cooperate with parties that disagree with their political views, they will not feel the slightest inappropriateness or shame. Kirigakure has come to this day tenaciously in the complex entanglement of various forces. After the funeral of the 3rd generation, Qishuang and the others received another escort commission. On the way, they killed a few thieves. After spending nearly a week to complete the escort, Qishuang returned to Kirigakure and began to practice wind escape again. The so-called change in the nature of chakra is not a figment of the imagination of the predecessors. It is the wisdom of the predecessors summarizing the laws of nature. The 5 basic changes of wind, thunder, water, fire, and earth, plus the 2 special changes of yin and yang, just correspond to people's cognition of the world. They believe that the world is mainly composed of these 7 elements. Mastering the power of these 7 elements is equivalent to mastering all the principles of the world. Therefore, they tried to use chakra changes to derive 7 kinds of power. However, in the actual practice process, they found that the 2 changes of yin and yang were too difficult to master, so they excluded them from the 7 basic changes and listed them as 2 special changes. Therefore, it became the current 5 basic chakra property changes. In a sense, the change of chakra properties is actually the process of human beings imitating the creation of gods. They hope to create real substances through the simulation of chakra, which is the essence of chakra property changes. As long as they can create real substances, it means that they stand at the same height as the gods of creation, and they have the power of gods. But since the development of the ninja world, the only person who can use chakra to create real substances is the 1st generation of Hokage, Hashirama Senju. His wind escape can create real trees that grow naturally in nature. It is very different from other chakra creations that slowly disintegrate into the air after losing chakra support. With this real power, Hashirama Senju used the wood release, a blood boundary succession ninjutsu, to exert unimaginable power. Therefore, the most fundamental way to learn the change of chakra properties is to comprehend nature and feel nature. Use chakra to change your own understanding of natural power, and the change of chakra properties will naturally become a result. The teacher's teaching is also a way. It's just that this method can certainly help students avoid many detours, but there are certain differences between people. What suits the teacher may not be suitable for the students. After all, everyone has different perceptions of the same power, and there are many differences in how to use it. If you are lucky, the students may be able to quickly understand what the teacher teaches and learn it quickly. If you are unlucky, the students simply don't understand what the teacher says and can't learn it at all. Therefore, when most teachers teach students to learn the change of chakra properties, they only guide them from the side, not directly cramming them. Because wind escape is related to ice escape, Qishuang is confident that he can learn wind escape by his own ability, so he did not deliberately ask other Miss Ninjas who can learn wind escape for advice. He just used ice escape to create an ice pillar more than 10 meters high in the practice field. It is convenient for him to feel the existence of wind. For him, the so-called wind is flowing air. Based on this point, he made his chakra softer and thinner, like air, and then processed it. With the connection of ice escape, it didn't take long for him to learn wind escape. But such wind does not have too strong lethality, or even no lethality at all. It is far from the wind escape with strong cutting ability that is common in the ninja world. Although he did not intend to develop wind escape as his main means, he could not tolerate the abandonment of such an escape with such attack potential. Even if he did not have the energy to specialize in it like ice escape, at least he should bring into play its sharp cutting characteristics. Let himself have an extra escape with strong cutting characteristics. What exactly is wrong? Sitting cross-legged on the icicle, he muttered to himself while looking at the rotating airflow in his hand. The rotating airflow was the chakra that had undergone the wind attribute transformation. At this moment, it was like a miniature whirlwind caught in his hand. He was thinking about how to make the flowing air play the cutting property. In a trance, he looked at the miniature whirlwind in his hand, which seemed to have turned into a rotating chakra energy ball. Then, the name of a ninjutsu flashed through his mind. Rasengan? No, that's not right. The Rasengan is essentially a compressed chakra energy bomb, and does not have the wind attribute. He immediately denied the connection between that move and wind escape. Only after that kid learned wind escape and added the property change to the Rasengan. The Rasengan had the attribute attack. He thought silently again. Yes, that kid also learned the property change of wind escape. He suddenly realized that the kid who was not born at this time had also practiced the property change of wind, like he was now. However, that kid seemed to have only mastered the cutting property of wind and did not know anything else. Even so, after that person added the cutting properties of the wind to the Rasengan, he also created a very terrifying ninjutsu. At this time, the other party's training process of mastering that cutting property was exactly what he needed. Then, he closed his eyes and began to slowly recall the process of that person's training of the nature of the wind. Chapter 256 Wind Escape. When the boy was practicing the change of wind nature, he consulted a Konoha wind escape master, Sarutobi Asuma. Asuma rarely used wind escape to release ninjutsu, but he often used the sharp cutting characteristics of wind escape chakra to attach it to the edge of the weapon, to enhance the weapon's lethality. It can be said that Asuma is a ninja who is very good at using the cutting characteristics of wind escape. Qishuang still remembered that when the boy asked Asuma for advice, Asuma said that the change of wind escape nature is like grinding chakra for weapons. The thinner the edge, the stronger the cutting. Recalling this, he suddenly fell into deep thought. Grinding? After repeatedly thinking about what Asuma said, Qishuang felt that he had grasped the principle of wind escape cutting. Because of grinding, chakra becomes sharp and has extremely strong cutting ability. Because everyone is born different, even if it is the same sentence, different people will hear different meanings and be inspired by different things. The boy noticed the result of polishing and controlled the change of chakra with perseverance, making each unit of chakra thinner, thus cultivating the change of wind attribute chakra with cutting ability. However, this training process took a long time. What Qishuang noticed was not the result of polishing, but the process of polishing. It is better to say friction than polishing. This is like a weapon being sharpened on a whetstone, because the edge of the weapon and the whetstone produce friction. The friction acts on the edge of the weapon and the whetstone, causing both to wear out. The more you grind, the thinner and sharper the edge of the weapon will become due to wear and tear, and the grinding marks on the whetstone will become deeper and deeper. In his eyes, friction is the source of sharpness. Just use one strand of chakra as a sharp blade and another strand of chakra as a whetstone, and then rub the two together, and both will become extremely sharp. Because these two strands of chakra are each other's whetstone. As he spoke, Qishuang twisted up a piece of clothing with 2 fingers. Then he transformed the chakra into wind attributes, and output 2 strands from his index finger and thumb respectively. When passing through the clothing, he deliberately adjusted the flow rate of the 2 strands of chakra, so that they would pass closely, and rub against each other. Whoosh! With a very small sound, the piece of clothing that he had twisted up was instantly split into 2 halves, as if it was cut by an invisible blade. Seeing this scene, he suddenly stood up and laughed loudly. I succeeded. I succeeded. Ha 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 ha. His guess was correct. Friction can really make chakra sharper. At present, he has mastered the flow characteristics of wind. He only needs to slightly adjust the flow rate of chakra in the wind and let the chakra rub against each other to obtain the death wind with extremely strong cutting power. At the same time, Meditarumi, who was concentrating on comprehending the characteristics of fire in the training ground below, was frightened by his sudden shout. What are you yelling about? You scared me. She raised her head and shouted at the top of the icicle in dissatisfaction. Hearing this, Qishuang jumped down from the top of the icicle. I have basically mastered the wind style. He stood firmly on his feet and said to the girl with great joy. Oh, really? Then show me your skills. Meditarumi said with a little curiosity, and the unhappiness caused by the previous shock was swept away. Okay. Qishuang smiled and nodded, and took out a kunai from the ninja bag. Then he took a deep breath, put his left hand together, and touched the kunai, and the chakra was attached to the kunai as his fingers moved. Meditarumi immediately saw a layer of translucent light spreading from the handle of the kunai to the tip, and the light even extended half a foot beyond the kunai's blade, like a piece of light blade spreading out. She immediately saw that it was the wind attribute chakra method commonly used by wind ninjas. Because of the cutting characteristics of wind ninjas, many wind ninjas would use wind attribute chakra to increase the sharpness of their weapons, thereby gaining weapon advantages in close combat. However, she was not quite sure how powerful Qishuang's newly trained wind ninja was. Watch out. Qishuang raised the kunai blade blessed by wind ninja, turned to face the ice pillar platform she created, and then quickly slashed it with a knife. Whoosh. With the slight sound of the wind ninja blade rubbing against the air, the translucent blade chopped the ice pillar. Qishuang held the handle of the kunai and chopped the translucent blade from one side of the ice pillar to the other without any delay. It was just like cutting tofu, without any difficulty at all. At this moment, he suddenly realized that the cutting ability of wind escape was somewhat restrained by his ice escape. To be precise, it should be that his ice escape defense could hardly block the cutting attack of wind escape. As early as the war against Konoha, he had also encountered ninjas who used wind escape, but at that time, they were in a group of 4 in the king team, supporting each other, and he rarely used ice escape defense. Therefore, he did not notice that the wind escape cutting restrained his ice escape defense so much. Now, he sounded the alarm for himself in advance. It was not that his ice escape defense was not strong enough, but that this sharp wind escape chakra had reached the point where it could cut the gap between chakras, because its cutting ability was too subtle. It was because the wind escape chakra cut his ice escape chakra from a microscopic perspective that it cut his ice. It was not a cut in the macro sense. Unless he reduced the gap between the ice escape chakras to a smaller level than the wind escape chakra, so that the wind escape chakra had no gap to cut, it could only fight against his ice escape chakra head on. Otherwise, it would be really difficult to block this extremely aggressive chakra. But the sharpness of wind chakra comes from making chakra more subtle, while his ice chakra does not have this change. This is an innate weakness. It is really difficult for him to start from this aspect. From this, we can boldly draw another conclusion. Lightning ninjutsu with penetrating attack characteristics is probably also a type, that is ice ninjutsu is difficult to resist. Generally, lightning ninjutsu is easy to deal with, but lightning ninjutsu that focuses on penetrating attacks, such as Hatake Kakishi's Reikiri, cannot be blocked by ice ninjutsu. Just as he was immersed in this wind ninjutsu, he heard the anxious call of Meitarumi. The icicle is about to fall. What are you still doing there? Hearing the girl's call, Qishuang suddenly came back to his senses and saw that the nearly 10-meter high, hug-thick icicle was falling towards his head. His face was stern, and he immediately raised the kunai in his hand that was attached with wind chakra and slashed several times at the falling icicle in front of him. Swish, swish, swish. He danced wildly and immediately cut the icicle that was about to hit him into a pile of broken ice that was not even the size of a finger. Boom. The remaining icicle that did not cover his body flew over his head and crashed to the ground. The huge impact even shattered the bonfire of Meitarumi next to him. For a moment, dust flew and sparks scattered. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Shocking News. Ahem. When the dust settled, Meitarumi came over, fanning her nose. What were you thinking about just now? You were almost hit by an icicle, she said softly, kicking away a burning branch next to her. Waving the kunai in her hand to disperse the chakra on it, Qishuang said slowly, I just suddenly thought of something, so I was a little absent-minded. After that, he stuffed the kunai back into the ninja bag. What are you thinking about? The girl continued to ask. I feel that the cutting of wind escape and the penetration of lightning escape have some restraint on my ice escape defense. Qishuang sighed and said, without any intention of hiding. Wind escape and lightning escape are the two most powerful escape techniques in the ninja world that are good at attacking and breaking defenses. It's not strange that they can't be blocked. If you can't block it, just don't block it. Meitarumi waved her hand and said, looking nonchalant. That's right. If you can't block it, just don't block it. After hearing her words, Qishuang immediately smiled. After all, the moves are dead, but people are alive. If you know you can't block it, you still want to block it. What else can you do but be a fool? In addition to defensive blocking, he had other options to deal with the attacks of wind escape and lightning escape. Either move to evade or attack instead of defend. In short, facing the extremely powerful wind escape and lightning escape, don't be stupid to use ice escape to block. Besides, the ice pillar he just cut off was just a platform he made to watch the wind, not a real defensive ice escape ninjutsu, just like an ordinary ice block. In terms of defensive ability, it is naturally far inferior to the ice escape protection he deliberately made. It is not difficult to understand that it was cut off so easily by his wind escape chakra blade. If it were really an ice escape defensive ninjutsu, even if it could be cut open with the cutting characteristics of wind escape, it would not be as easy as just now. More importantly, because everyone is different, even among different wind escape ninjas, the wind escape cutting ability they mastered is also different. Not all wind escape ninjutsu can reach the level of wind escape Rasengan Shuriken Jutsu. He was a little too worried. By the way, how is your fire escape practice going? Nanoshuang asked the girl with a smile. Hearing this, Terumi Mei was like a cat with its fur exploded and said angrily, what are you talking about? I just had a little insight, but you suddenly yelled it away. You have to compensate me. After that, she pinched Nanoshuang's waist fiercely. Hiss, the sharp pain from his waist made Nanoshuang take a breath. He patted the little hand on his waist and smiled bitterly. How about I treat you to something? Hearing this, Terumi Mei slowly loosened the fingers pinching his soft flesh and said bitterly, that's better. Then, the two of them left the training ground one after the other. It's called eating, but in fact it's just some barbecue, and there are not many unique delicacies to eat. Years of war have led to the overall development of the ninja world not being very fast. Because of the war, the country's resources will be tilted towards the war, making it difficult to improve the people's livelihood. At the same time, the war will also cause panic among the people, and life cannot be stable. In this situation, even survival is difficult to maintain, and everyone naturally has no energy to do other things, and the development of the entire society is extremely slow. Therefore, the entertainment and catering industries of the entire ninja world are still at a very ordinary level. Compared with the previous life of Qishuang Bingfen, it is completely a world of difference. Countries with deep cultural heritage like the 5 great countries are fine. Even if the economy has regressed due to the war, it will not regress too much. In general, the overall economy of the 5 great countries is still much stronger than when the 5 great ninja villages were first established. But for the rest of the small countries, it is a disaster. A random war is enough to destroy all their livelihoods and cause the entire country to collapse. Small countries with more remote locations are okay, but small countries located in the gap between several big countries are simply falling into hell on earth. Especially the grass country and the rain country, which are often used as battlefields by Konoha, Iwagakure, and Sand Village. The rain country is fine. This generation has a leader of the Rain Village who is praised as a demigod by the ninja world, the Salamander Hanzo. Under his command, the Land of Rain managed to deal with the other 3 countries and barely managed to catch its breath without completely collapsing. The Land of Grass was in a miserable state. The original Hidden Grass village had long ceased to exist and was completely destroyed in the flames of war. There was no safe area in the country. Because it had lost its fundamental military power, the Land of Grass was completely unable to control the situation in the entire country, resulting in rampant thieves and wars. There were even many wandering ninjas and rebel ninjas from various villages, making it a completely chaotic and disorderly area. As a result, the people of the Land of Grass fled one after another to avoid the flames of war and strongmen, and the entire country could be said to exist in name only. If the 3 neighboring countries had not needed a buffer zone and a battlefield, the Land of Grass would have been divided up by the 3 countries and wiped off the map. It is precisely because of this that the other small countries bordering the Land of Grass, even though they knew they could easily occupy the territory of the Land of Grass, did not dare to reach out to pick it up, for fear of getting into trouble by accident. In the barbecue restaurant, Qishuang and the other person found a quiet place to sit down. When the waiter brought the raw meat slices, Qishuang carefully put the meat slices on the grill and grilled them with the help of the charcoal fire below. At this moment, a voice came from the next door, as if 2 Miss Ninjas who were eating barbecue were chatting. "Have you heard that something big happened in Konoha?" Hearing this, Qishuang and the other person also pricked up their ears calmly and listened carefully to their conversation. As the only few opponents of the Hidden Mist village in the ninja world, they were also very curious about what happened in Konoha. Only to hear another person curiously asked, "What happened?" The newly appointed 4th generation Hokage of Konoha died. The person in front said gloatingly. As Hidden Mist ninjas, they were naturally overjoyed about the death of the 4th generation Hokage of Konoha. What? Hearing this news, the person behind was shocked. Even Meditarumi, who was eavesdropping next door, was stunned. "You know, that is the head of the village, Hokage. Anyone who can sit in that position is definitely not a mediocre person. Moreover, the current Hokage is none other than Minato Namikaze, who shined in the last war and was praised by everyone as the Golden Flash. With the Flying Thunder God technique, he can come and go without a trace and no one can stop him. In terms of the ability to escape, he is rare in the world. No one would have thought that this young Hokage with natural talent would suddenly die less than a year after taking office. It is really unbelievable. How could he die? With the Flying Thunder God technique, who can stop him?" the man behind asked hurriedly. At the same time, the same question arose in Meditarumi's heart. Only Ninashiro continued to turn the barbecue on the barbecue net calmly. Chapter 258 Transport. Nanashuang knew it very well. The death of Minato Namikaze was destined and irreversible as early as the day when Rinhara died and Uchiha Obito escaped from him. The Blackened Obito completely abandoned this world and began his revenge unscrupulously, using everything he had to vent the hatred in his heart. This is like a gambler who has lost all his money and is on the verge of despair. Now he doesn't care about anything. The teacher's kindness and friendship are not worth mentioning in his eyes. All he thinks about is how to take revenge on this world and destroy this world. Uchiha Obito has gone crazy. Then, the first person said slowly, according to the news from Konoha, the fourth Hokage died in order to break the seal of the Nine Tails and protect Konoha village. Nine Tails. The second person asked hurriedly, hasn't the Nine Tails always been closely watched by Konoha? How could it be possible to break the seal? Could it be a misunderstanding? Breaking the seal means that the Jinchuriki has completely lost control of the tailed beast. But generally speaking, under strict monitoring, even if the Jinchuriki goes berserk, it will be suppressed quickly, and it is impossible for the tailed beast to break the seal. The news that the Nine Tails broke the seal is really hard to believe. Goo. After a swallowing sound, the first person slowly said, the Nine Tails broke out of the seal and came out. That night, the Nine Tails suddenly appeared in Konoha village for some reason and wreaked havoc, turning Konoha village upside down. Everyone in Konoha saw it run away. Konoha can't hide such news. It can't be false. As for why it suddenly broke out of the seal, no one knows. I only know that now, the Nine Tails runaway and the fourth Hokage's death are making a lot of noise. It is estimated that it won't be long before the whole ninja world can hear this news. After saying that, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Whether it was the Nine Tails runaway or the fourth Hokage's death, it was great news for Kirigakure. You know, in the previous war, Kirigakure paid a heavy price. He hoped that the Nine Tails would make more trouble, and it would be best if Konoha could be completely destroyed. It's a pity that the Nine Tails was not up to the task and was sealed again by the fourth Hokage. As if infected by his laughter, the companions beside him also laughed. This news is good to hear. I'll treat you to this meal today. The man behind patted his chest and said. Hearing this, the man in front was immediately unhappy. No, no, no. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll treat you. I'll do it. I'll do it. Then, the two Miss Ninjas began to compete to pay for the meal for Konoha's misfortune. It seems that Konoha's good luck has ended. After listening to the conversation between the two, Terumi raised the corners of her mouth and said to Nanoshuan with great joy. As early as the previous war, Kirigakure had made several plans to capture Konoha, but they always encountered various accidents, which completely scrapped the plans. She was depressed for a long time because of this. Now, hearing such news, the depression in her heart was immediately swept away. From head to toe, she felt extremely comfortable. Yes, Konoha's good luck has indeed ended. Nanoshuan shook her head, sighed, and put the roasted meat on the plate in front of the girl. Because of the Nine Tails rebellion, Konoha became more suspicious of the Uchiha clan. This led to the growing conflict between the Uchiha clan and Konoha. Earlier, due to the external war pressure, the conflict between Konoha and Uchiha was temporarily suppressed. Now that the war has stopped, and this kind of thing has happened again, the conflict between Konoha and Uchiha is not far from breaking out. It can be said that, since the end of the Third Ninja World War, Konoha has gone downhill and started the process of decline. Ming's unintentional words really hit the future trend of Konoha. You don't seem very happy to hear that the fourth Hokage died in the war. The girl stared at him closely and said, and stuffed a piece of barbecue from the plate into her mouth. Unfortunately, the meat was just taken from the barbecue net by Nanoshuan, and the temperature has not completely dropped. Hiss, it's so hot, Terumi exclaimed, grinning, and almost spit it out. In the end, she could only hold it with her teeth and blow hard a few times before she could enjoy the deliciousness. Seeing her predicament, Qishuang laughed so hard that she fell on the bench next to her. You are too impatient, he said with a breathless laugh. I told you to laugh. The angry girl kicked him directly from under the table. Okay, I won't laugh anymore. After being kicked, Qishuang sat up slowly and said with a smile. He knew very well that according to Ming's temper, if he continued to laugh, he might really get angry. Humph. Seeing this, Terumi snorted angrily and picked up another piece. Only this time she learned her lesson and blew it carefully before putting it in her mouth. You haven't answered my question yet. After swallowing the barbecue, she stared at the boy and asked. Nanashiro picked up a few slices of meat from the grill and put them on her plate. She said seriously, how can I be unhappy? I cheer for this from the bottom of my heart. Meditarumi put down her chopsticks, crossed her arms, and snorted. I didn't see that at all. Instead, I saw that you were a little regretful. Nanashiro picked up a piece of meat, blew a few breaths on it, stuffed it into her mouth, and swallowed it slowly before saying, I just feel a little sorry that Minato Namikaze's Flying Thunder God technique will be lost. The Flying Thunder God technique was originally created by the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju. It belongs to the space-time technique, not one of the 7 great escape techniques, nor is it a derivative technique of the 7 great escape techniques. It is completely independent of the 7 great escape techniques. In terms of attributes, it is not a technique that ordinary people can practice. Since the second Hokage, only one Minato Namikaze has mastered it. The difficulty of practicing it is unimaginable. This is exactly the case. Qishuang still remembered that after Minato Namikaze, no one had mastered this space-time technique. Even Orochimaru, who liked to study forbidden techniques and collected the forbidden technique scrolls of the second generation Hokage, did not know that technique. Although the 3 guards of Minato Namikaze learned the Flying Thunder Array technique, they only learned the basics of the Flying Thunder God technique and had to work together to perform it. It was much worse than the original Flying Thunder God technique. The Flying Thunder God technique was lost in Konoha. Meditarumi was indignant when she heard this. It's lost, so I hope it's lost. The more techniques like that are lost in Konoha, the better. For her, as long as it was not good for Konoha, she would fully support it. No matter how powerful the Flying Thunder God technique was, it belonged to Konoha, not Kirigakure. If it was passed down, it would only cause trouble for them. But she had not forgotten the terrible scene of Minato Namikaze slaughtering people wantonly and coming and going like the wind on the battlefield of the grass country. Chapter 259 2 years. Seeing that the girl was very serious, Qishuang quickly took a few more slices of grilled meat from the grill and said perfunctorily, okay, lost is the best, lost is the best. Hearing his change of words, Meditarumi's face of indignation finally relaxed. In the cemetery of Konoha village, a guy wearing an orange vortex-shaped one-eyed mask stood quietly next to a tombstone. He was seen stroking the tombstone and muttering, Lin, a few nights ago, I released the Ninetales in Konoha village. It's a pity you didn't see how relieved those guys were when they faced the Ninetales. The terrified expressions on their faces were so refreshing. Oh, right. The masked guy seemed to remember something and continued. Aunt Kushina died because I released the Ninetales. But you can't blame me because she happens to be the Ninetales Jinchuriki and teacher Minato. He died too. It's a pity I didn't kill him. He was trying to protect Konoha and died in the battle. You said he can protect so many people in Konoha. Why can't he protect you? You are his student, and many of those people in Konoha are just a group of unrelated strangers. Why can he risk his life to protect those ant-like guys, but not you? As if his emotions were getting more and more agitated, the body of the one-eyed masked man began to tremble gradually. I won't accept this. I won't surrender. He is not qualified to be our teacher at all. He deserves to die. With a furious roar, as if venting all the resentment and anger in his chest, the masked man's emotions calmed down again. He continued to speak to the tombstone. I originally wanted to use the Ninetales to destroy Konoha, so that these guys who could live in peace, because of your sacrifice, would be buried with you. I didn't expect to fail in the end. In that case, just consider it as the interest I collect temporarily. One day, sooner or later, I will destroy Konoha and let them come down to accompany you. I won't let you be alone down there. As he spoke, he stroked the tombstone again and whispered, I came here today to say goodbye to you on purpose. I have to leave you for a while and go to the rain country to do some things and prepare some things. When everything is ready, I will open the door to the dreamland and let us reunite again. And that group of hateful mist ninjas, they took away your body and buried you in a foreign land. When I finish what I have at hand, I will go to the mist village to pick you up. You must wait for me. I will prepare everything as soon as possible. Wait for me, Lin. After the words fell, he looked at the tombstone with great attachment, and then like a residual image, he slowly dissipated in the breeze. In the Hidden Mist Village, Terumi spent nearly a year to finally master the fire attribute chakra transformation, and began to try to integrate the fire attribute transformation into her own melting escape. Once successful, she will be able to integrate fire, earth, and water into one, achieve a new bloodline elimination, and become the second person in the ninja world to create a bloodline elimination. And with this, she stepped onto the pinnacle of the ninja world and became one of the strongest. However, reality was like a basin of cold water poured on her head. The difficulty of integrating 3 chakra changes was far beyond her imagination, because she found that the newly practiced fire escape chakra could not be integrated into the melting escape chakra no matter what. She couldn't even see a trace of fusion, but found that the melting escape chakra was extremely repellent to the approach of the fire escape chakra, which made her extremely desperate. After asking Qishuang, she realized that perfect things do not need to be superfluous, and there is no room for superfluous. The melting escape chakra, that has already integrated the water and earth changes, has an extremely stable structure, and there is naturally no room for the fire escape chakra to intervene. If she wants to incorporate the changes of fire into it, she must break the stable structure of the melting chakra. Only in this way will there be room for adding the changes of the nature of fire. In this way, it means that, while she breaks the balance of the melting chakra structure, she must also let the newly added fire chakra change form a new balance. Let the 3 chakra changes stably form a new chakra. It sounds simple, but it is not easy to do in practice. After finding the key to the problem, she continued to try the fusion of the 3 chakras with confidence. Breaking the stable structure of water and earth chakras in the melting chakra is not a difficult problem for her, and adding fire chakra is not too difficult. But the problem is that she must form a new balance between the added fire chakra and water and earth. The difference between bloodline elimination and bloodline limit is actually the integration of one more chakra change. In terms of the training method, both are obtained by fusing chakra changes, and there is no difference. However, the example of fusing 2 changes to obtain blood limit is not common in the ninja world. 99% of people inherit the power of blood limit through the protection of their predecessors. Only at the source of the bloodline limit, there are a few amazing people who have obtained the power of the bloodline limit through their own efforts. The bloodline limit, that only combines 2 changes, is still so difficult to practice. The bloodline elimination that combines 3 changes is more than twice as difficult to practice. Don't you see that in such a large ninja world, there is only one bloodline elimination dust escape? Just as Qishuang had expected earlier, Terumi was trapped at the gate of maintaining the balance of the 3 chakras. She could not make the 3 chakras reach a new balance and become a stable new chakra type. Seeing that there was only one step away from the bloodline elimination, but this step was like a natural chasm, and it was impossible to cross it. Time passed quickly for another year, and the 2 worked together to complete many of the various tasks assigned by the above. Because she mastered the wind and water escape techniques related to ice escape, Qishuang's research on ice escape increased day by day, but Terumi was still stuck at the gate of fusion without any progress. If she hadn't known that Qishuang wouldn't lie to her, and that the chakra fusion theory was impeccable, and that there was a real example of dust release in the ninja world, she would have almost doubted whether the method of fusing 3 chakras to achieve bloodline elimination was feasible. What should I do to keep them balanced? Sitting in the practice field, Terumi stared at the gravel at her feet in a daze. Because of the melting release, her water and earth chakras are very compatible. When fusing the 3 chakras, the 2 chakras always combine naturally, just like a positive and negative magnet, completely excluding the fire release chakra. Even if she deliberately suppressed the fusion of the 2 chakras and then forcibly inserted the fire release chakra into it, the fire release chakra still couldn't coexist peacefully with the 2 chakras and achieve a balance. If she let go of the control a little, the water and earth chakras would repel the forced insertion of the fire release chakra to the side and merge into the melting release chakra. This was just a small problem she often encountered. In this year's attempts, she encountered worse difficulties than this. Don't take the chakra fusion training too seriously. After all, it's just my opinion. Don't compare mine with other fan works, just enjoy watching it. Chapter 260. Goodbye. Forced fusion of different chakras will produce repulsive force. The stronger the fusion, the stronger the repulsive force will be. At the least, they will bounce off each other, and at the worst, they will collide and annihilate. Just like the explosion of compressed chakra bombs, it will pose a great threat to the human body. In the 1 year of trying to fuse, she has experienced 3 chakra collision and annihilation accidents. Fortunately, she did not use too much chakra in the process of trying to fuse, so the damage caused by such annihilation accidents was not life-threatening. However, the meridians in her hands were burned by the energy generated by the chakra annihilation, and she was admitted to the hospital 3 times. The doctor said that, if such injuries were more serious, it would be difficult to recover. Therefore, since then, she has been extremely careful every time she tried. Whenever she found a trend of chakra annihilation, she immediately withdrew the experiment and did not dare to go further. However, every time she gave up halfway, the test data was incomplete, and the cause of the fusion failure could not be found. Naturally, the progress of the chakra fusion experiment was very limited. Nana Qishuang saw the troubles of Meiterumi, but she could do nothing to help. The method of creating bloodline elimination through chakra fusion is only theoretically feasible. He himself doesn't know much about it, let alone being involved in that field, so he can't really offer any useful suggestions. If he wants to find someone to help, then only the old stubborn Inoki in the Hidden Rock Village can help. The dust release was passed down from the 2nd generation of Tsuchikage Muto Inoki and has been passed down for 2 generations. Its basic practice method must have been perfected. If he can get his guidance, it will definitely be of great help to Ming's experiment of fusion chakra. But unfortunately, they are Kirigakure ninjas, and Inoki is a Hidden Rock ninja. The origins of both parties are completely different. In addition, as the only bloodline elimination ninjutsu in the current ninja world, the dust release has extraordinary attack capabilities. It goes without saying that it must be a strategic level technique of the Hidden Rock Village. Even within the Hidden Rock Village, I'm afraid that few people can access the training materials on the dust release. It's impossible to ask the old stubborn Inoki for help. The practice of fusion chakra still depends on Ming's own efforts. Noticing that the girl practicing not far away was gradually losing her will, Qishuang sighed, then dispersed the chakra in his hand, threw away an ice cube in his hand, and slowly walked over. It's not a good idea to just think hard like this. Why don't we go to the ritual library? There are a lot of information there. Maybe it can give you some inspiration, he said to the girl sitting on the ground. Hearing this, the girl mechanically raised her head, and her dull eyes gradually became more lively. Ritual library? She thought for a while and nodded. Okay, it's good to change your mood. After that, she slowly stood up. Maybe because she sat cross-legged for too long, her legs were a little numb. Just when she stood up, her knees softened, and she bent down again involuntarily. Be careful. Seeing that she was in a bad situation, Qishuang hurriedly reached out to support her. How long have you been sitting here? He asked with a smile. Although he was also sitting cross-legged beside him to practice, he didn't sit in one posture all the time, but changed his posture after sitting for a while, and sometimes he would stand up for a while when he was tired of sitting. Meiterumi has never sat in the same position until her legs become weak. Meiterumi hammered her legs and pouted, saying helplessly, I have been sitting here without moving since I came to the training ground. Because she was always thinking about the problem of fusion, she had no time to care about other things. Okay, I will help you walk for a while. Nana Qishuang smiled bitterly and shook her head, then helped the girl walk out of the training ground. The technique library is located near the Mizukage building. To get there from the training ground, you need to cross the main road in the center of the village. There are many techniques collected in it, which are provided for free reading by all the ninjas in the Hidden Mist village. Of course, the techniques that are free for the public to read are all very ordinary things. The real good things cannot be viewed for free, and everyone needs to pay a certain price. Although ninjas with family inheritance do not need these, more ordinary ninjas without background and inheritance really need this. After all, among all ninjas, ninjas without background and inheritance account for the vast majority. If the village did not provide resources such as ninjutsu training, the leadership of Kirigakure would have been hollowed out long ago. If it relied on the power of the major families to support Kirigakure. As soon as he entered the main road in the center of the village, Qishuang saw a familiar figure from a distance and hurriedly greeted him and shouted, "Hi, Zabuza." Although he hadn't seen him for a long time, he recognized the thin figure with the short sword on his back at a glance. At the same time, he also noticed that there was a little tail following Zabuza. Hearing his call, the figure with the short sword on his back paused for a moment, and then slowly turned around. The familiar face with a bandage on the lower half of his face was undoubtedly Zabuza. "Let's go over and talk." Qishuang winked at the girl next to him, and walked over immediately. Then, Mediterumi hurriedly followed. "Zabuza-san, who are they?" Next to Zabuza, a little guy wearing a Kirigakure and boom mask pulled the corner of his clothes, and asked in a low voice. "Former comrades, now opponents." Zabuza stared at the two people who were walking over and said coldly, "Opponents?" The little guy tilted his head and thought for a while, then asked in a low voice, "Mr. Zabuza, do you want to defeat the two of them?" Zabuza said expressionlessly, "It's mainly because of that man. I hate him. Remember his appearance, Bei. You must become an ice escape ninja that surpasses him in the future." Hearing this, the little guy seemed to be surprised, and said in surprise, "He is also an ice escape bloodline limit ninja?" "Yes." Zabuza nodded, looked at the two small eyes under the eye sockets of the mask, and said seriously, "It is because you also have the bloodline limit of ice escape that I brought you back. I want to use you as a whetstone, familiarize yourself with the attack method of ice escape, and finally defeat him. Don't let me down, Bei." Facing Zabuza's expectant eyes, the little guy nodded seriously and said solemnly, "Don't worry, Mr. Zabuza, I will definitely surpass him and become a qualified whetstone for you to lay the foundation for you to defeat him." Hearing such an answer, Zabuza showed a hint of relief in his eyes. He looked at the two people approaching and said contentedly, "Very good, very good. Long time no see, Zabuza. Why do you have a little tail beside you?" After greeting the boy with a bandage on his face, Terumi Medi turned her attention to a little guy next to him. Chapter 261 Boy. He was only a little over 1 meter tall, and a little thin. He was probably only about 5 or 6 years old. He was wearing a large Anbu standard mask on his head, so his face could not be seen. Two clear little eyes were curiously looking at the two of them. Judging from his age, the mask should belong to Zabuza. After all, a child of this age might have just started attending ninja school. It would be impossible for him to join the Anbu and get standard equipment. "What's your name, little guy?" Mediterumi asked with a smile, looking at the owner of the clear eyes, and reached out to take off the mask on his head. Under the mask, a very fair and beautiful face appeared in her eyes, and the curved eyebrows were like willow leaves, as if they would be blown by the breeze at any time. "What a cute little girl," the girl exclaimed. Qishuang, who was standing next to him, saw this and couldn't help but twitch her lips. Although the pretty little girl in front of him was a little different from the face in his memory, he could barely recognize that this should be the companion who would follow Zabuza in the future, Bei, who was in a male body and female appearance. At the same time, Zabuza was also embarrassed when he heard what Mediterumi said. He touched his nose and said carefully, "His name is Bei, and he is a boy." He emphasized the word boy to emphasize Bei's gender. Hearing this, Mediterumi was stunned at first, then raised her head and pointed at Zabuza and laughed. I thought you, a piece of wood, also learned the fun of life and found a little girl to live with. No, I didn't expect it was actually a boy. Ha ha ha. Looking at Zabuza with an embarrassed face, and then glancing at Bei who was confused, the girl laughed so hard that she couldn't even straighten her waist. Ignoring the crazy laughing girl, Qishuang asked curiously, "Why do you keep such a little guy around? This is not your style." With Zabuza's cold personality, he would never do such a troublesome thing. What's more, Bei in front of him is only a child of about 5 years old, and he is completely useless. It is unknown how long it will take to train him to become a qualified combat force. Therefore, the tool learning theory in the story of the previous life is completely nonsense. He was very curious about the real purpose of Zabuza keeping Bei by his side. Zabuza lowered his voice, stared at him closely and said, "Because Bei is also a blood limiter of ice escape, I will train him well, and then find a way to deal with you from him." Hearing this, Qishuang sighed and said, 2 years have passed, and you still can't forget about that incident. He never thought that Zabuza's obsession with him would become an opportunity to adopt Bei. Next to him, Meditarumi, who had completely stopped laughing, wiped the tears from her eyes, glanced at the timid little boy, and said in surprise, Ice Release Bloodline Genkei. His identity is very dangerous. Have you investigated his origins? Glancing around, Zabuza squinted and said, he is the trophy I got when I went out to clear out the rebels. I know his origins better than anyone else. The Enbu received intelligence that someone suspected to be from the Snow Clan was around, so he sent him out to investigate. When he arrived, the suspect had been killed by local residents. After investigation, it was found that the suspect was indeed the remnant of the Snow Clan who was on the run and was on the wanted list. Not only that, he also found the descendant of the mission target, Bei. Originally, he was going to kill him, but after discovering that the other party had awakened the Ice Release Bloodline Genkei, he thought of Nana Frost, so he saved Bei's life. Because the Snow Clan's true existence was not confirmed at the beginning, it was just a suspicion, so the mission commission given by the Anbu was just to investigate the actual situation. The higher-ups did not know that the suspect had descendants. In addition, Bei is relatively young and was born after the turmoil of the two bloodline limit families. He is not on the wanted list of the Hidden Mist village at all and is a non-existent person. This also gave him room to operate. After dealing with all the insiders, Zabuza took Bei back to the Hidden Mist village, and with the authority of the Anbu, he made up an identity for Bei and registered a new household registration. From then on, Bei became an orphan with a clean background. The spoils? Hearing his words, Meditarumi was stunned for a moment, and then she came to her senses. Just as she was about to say something, she suddenly saw the Anbu mask being removed from the little boy's head, and immediately realized it. The identity of the Anbu is still convenient. She snorted. Obviously, Zabuza could take Bei to wander around the Hidden Mist village so openly, and he must have borrowed the authority of the Anbu to whitewash the other party's identity. Pretending not to hear the sour meaning of the girl, Zabuza asked back, where are you two going? Meng encountered difficulties in studying the spells, so we are going to go to the spell library to look for some inspiration from the many spells. Nana Qishuang replied calmly and pointedly glanced at the end of the avenue where the Mizukage building was located. You two are really idle. Zabuza glanced at the two of them and continued, there are so many ready-made spells in the Hidden Mist village. You don't study hard, but think about developing new ones every day. It's just a waste of time. After all, people's energy is limited, and it is impossible to be all round. In addition, most ninjas have a short career and need to quickly improve their combat power to increase their chances of survival. It is better to be specialized than to be miscellaneous. Therefore, most ninjas only choose a few spells that are suitable for them and practice them diligently. Few people learn a bunch of messy things. Things like studying spells by themselves, which are extremely energy consuming and time consuming, are even more disgusting. Facing Zabuza's rebuke, Qishuang was not angry at all, but smiled and replied, the techniques left by others are created by others for themselves after all, and they are not necessarily suitable for us. I think it is still necessary for us to study some things ourselves and give full play to our abilities. Humph. Zabuza snorted coldly and said slowly, then I will wait and see, and when I challenge you again, I will see what interesting things you will come up with. Let's go, Bei. After that, he greeted the little boy who had been silent beside him, and then turned around and left. The little boy was stunned for a moment, then turned around and hurriedly chased after him. Looking at Zabuza's leaving back, Terumi Mei shook her head and said helplessly, after not seeing him for so long, he still has this bad temper. It's a pity for that little boy named Bei. I'm afraid I'll suffer if I follow him. Qishuang sighed, did not respond, just took a step and greeted, let's go. Chapter 262 Storm. Before they reached the bottom of the Mizukage building, they heard several crisp noises from afar. It seemed that glass was smashed. The two looked in the direction of the sound and saw several black shadows flying out of the third floor window of the Mizukage building. Before they landed, they saw half a person sticking out of the broken window on the third floor. He had green hair and purple eyes, and there was a suture-like scar under his left eyelid that extended to his chin. The two recognized it at a glance. It was Yagura of Goji. All of you get out of here. Get out of Kirigakure. I don't want to see you. You want to go back to Kirigakure? There's no way. Yagura pointed at the people who fell and cursed angrily. Boom. Amid the rebuke of the young fourth generation, the people fell heavily to the ground, and a layer of grey-yellow dust immediately rose. Qishuang and the others looked again, and found that the people who fell were covered with sharp bone spurs. They were the ninjas of the Kagura clan. It was just unknown which side of them made the first move. At the same time, the people passing by were also pointing fingers at the members of the Kagura clan. These guys with a lot of calcium in their heads come here to make a scene every few months. Not to mention the surly fourth Hokage. Even I can't stand it. Don't they know how to turn a corner and change their approach? Someone said with a look of disdain. Someone next to him said, you are overestimating these battle maniacs by expecting them to solve the problem with their brains. Because of the blood limit disease, the Kagura clan acted recklessly, and coupled with their fierce fighting ability, few people dared to provoke them. Over time, the entire Kagura clan became extremely arrogant and looked down on everyone. They were already used to solving problems with force, and it was too difficult for them to solve them with their brains. In my opinion, the fourth Hokage was right to reject them. If these guys with a lot of calcium in their heads were allowed to return to the Hidden Mist village, I'm afraid everyone's life would be difficult. Someone said faintly. Although he also suspected that the fourth Hokage's rejection of the Kagura clan was purely out of emotion and not for the sake of the entire Kirigakure, the fourth Hokage's seemingly reckless behavior was exactly what everyone wanted. It was a lucky coincidence. It was precisely because everyone did not welcome the Kagura clan back that the major families and the Kirigakure's high-level officials acquiesced to the fourth Hokage's rude behavior and did not speak out to stop it. They allowed this group of guys with calcium in their heads to challenge the patience of the young Mizukage, and they got bumped all over their heads, but they did not mean to give any advice. Of course, these people naturally included the part of the Kirigakure who supported the Fuguki to take the position. Although they had stood on the same front with the Kagura clan and were allies earlier, the Fuguki had not ascended to the position of Mizukage at the moment, so naturally there was no need for everyone to help the Kagura clan. What's more, during the earlier battle for the Mizukage, the Kagura clan not only did not become a helper, but instead attacked the Fuguki. Everyone remembered this. Although the failure of the pufferfish ghost to become the Mizukage had nothing to do with the obstruction of the Kagura clan, such a pig teammate without principles is really unacceptable. Help or something, it's impossible. But then again, the reason why the Kagura clan has been pestering the fourth generation to return to the Hidden Mist village is also partly their responsibility. If they hadn't promised earlier that once they helped the pufferfish ghost to ascend to the position of Mizukage, they would approve the return of the Kagura clan, causing the Kagura clan to be obsessed with this matter, and there would be no conflict today. Unfortunately, it's time and fate. What are you looking at? Be careful or I'll kill you. The Kagura clan ninja who got up from the ground, holding a bone blade, shouted fiercely to the onlookers. They were just beaten by the furry Mizukage, and they were holding back a ball of anger in their hearts, and had nowhere to vent. At this moment, the pointing and talking of the crowd was plucking their sensitive heartstrings. Unfortunately, there happened to be a few young people in the crowd who were like the Kagura clan, and they were not good birds. Moreover, they were young and had not experienced the era when the Kagura clan was rampant in the Hidden Mist village. Therefore, they had only heard of the Kagura clan and had never really fought against them. They were not as afraid of the Kagura clan as the older generation. Now, facing the scolding of the Kagura clan, if they retreated, it would mean fear, which deeply stimulated their pitiful self-esteem. They could not retreat. Why are you so fierce? Don't you see where this is? This is a Hidden Mist village. It's not your turn to be presumptuous. Someone immediately took a step forward and shouted loudly. Yes, this is a Hidden Mist village. What dare you do? Someone immediately echoed, with a proud look on his face. At the same time, some experienced guys quietly moved back. You know, the Kagura clan is a group that has never known what patience is. Faced with provocation, they will fight back without hesitation and calm their anger with blood. To teach these ignorant guys a lesson, or to watch the fun, the Mist Ninjas who knew that the Kaguya clan was about to take action did not warn them, but just moved back. The Kaguya clan is going to kill. Nana Frost, who also saw that the situation was not good, pulled Terumi Mei back quickly. What can we do? In the field, seeing someone come forward to provoke him, the leading Kaguya clan member turned around and winked at several of his fellow clansmen, then licked his lips, sneered at them and said, "Now, I will tell you what we dare to do." Before he finished speaking, he suddenly took a step forward, moved to the nearest person with the instant body technique, and instantly hugged the person in his arms. When the person just reacted and struggled to get rid of the other party's restraints, he heard a few muffled sounds and felt that his whole body was pierced by something sharp, and his eyes went black immediately. Ah, murder, murder. Seeing the Hyuga ninja attack without warning, in the blink of an eye, he pierced the person he was holding into his arms with the bone spurs on his body, which frightened the onlookers to death. Some people squeezed back in panic, while others quickly took out their weapons and prepared to fight. The few young men who provoked the Hyuga people were even more frightened and at a loss. They really didn't expect that the Hyuga people would dare to attack. How dare you? Why don't we dare? Before the young men finished speaking, the Hyuga ninjas behind them interrupted them with a sneer, opened their 10 fingers, and aimed at the people around them. Corpse bone vein 10-finger piercing bullet. Then, the Hyuga people's 10 fingertips suddenly shot out small bone spurs, accompanied by the sound of whizzing through the air, and hit the surrounding people. A beat late, and squeezed together. Everyone had no way to escape. Many people were pierced through the chest by the small bone spurs and fell down. In an instant, the entire ground under the Mizukage building was covered with blood and wailing. Chapter 263 Calming Down. Because of the indiscriminate attack of the Kaguya ninjas, the people affected fought back one after another. Except for being caught off guard at the beginning, the besiegers quickly gained the upper hand. After all, no matter how good the Kaguya clan is, they only have a few people here, and they can't resist the siege of dozens of people. Noticing that some of his fellow clansmen had fallen, the leading Kaguya ninja shouted loudly, "Kill them together." Then, under his leadership, 5 or 6 Kaguya clan members were like a sharp knife, immediately cutting through the defense line of the crowd, breaking out of the siege, and heading straight for the village entrance. The Kaguya clan is really worthy of its reputation. Terumi, who was watching the battle from a distance, was deeply moved. Although several people from the Kaguya clan were beaten badly, many of the besiegers were also killed and injured. In just a short while, there were no less than 20 bodies lying on the ground. Although it was also because the Kaguya clan attacked too suddenly, but with less than 10 people, they were able to barely hold on and fight their way out of the siege in the face of dozens of people. This record is enough to scare people. Qishuang shook his head and sighed. They are strong, but their brains are not very good. No one knows when the bone blades in their hands will be aimed at their own people. It was precisely this arrogance and uncontrollability of the Kaguya clan that led to their ejection by the people of the Kirigakure village and their expulsion from the Kirigakure village. Upstairs, Yagira, who had been watching the excitement, turned his head and asked the masked young man behind him, "King, should I take action to kill the group of guys who are killing people indiscriminately down there?" King bowed expressionlessly and said slowly, "This is just a small matter. It's not your turn, Mizukage, to do it yourself. Let's leave it to the people down there. The village guards have arrived." As he said that, he raised his head, revealing a layer of spider web-like meridians that had burst out on the side of his right eye. With the help of the long-range vision of the Byakugan, he had already seen the Kirigakure guards rushing over. At the same time, the Kaguya clan members who had just rushed out of the crowd were blocked by a group of Kirigakure ninjas wearing grey breastplates who suddenly appeared. The leading Kirigakure ninja made a gesture and said expressionlessly, gathering a crowd to cause chaos, killing indiscriminately, and seriously disrupting the order of the Kirigakure village. Kill them on the spot. Yes. Yes. The rest of the Kirigakure ninjas responded in unison, and after being very skillfully divided into 3 groups, the first group immediately went forward. The second and third groups stayed behind and quickly formed seals to prepare for the spell. Seeing this scene, the Kaguya clan members who were entangled by the first group of guarding Kirigakure ninjas became even more anxious, but the guards in the village were not comparable to the previous mob. They tried their best, but still couldn't get rid of the other party's entanglement. After a few breaths, the two groups of Kirigakure ninjas behind were ready for the spell. Water style, water whip, water style, water whip. The second group of guarding mist ninjas all shot out a light blue whip made of clear water from their hands, immediately tying up the Kaguya clan members who were fighting with their companions and restraining them in place. At the same time, the first group of mist ninjas who saw their companions take action immediately withdrew from the battlefield. The third group of guarding mist ninjas also released their prepared spells at the moment their companions withdrew. Lightning style, earth walk, lightning style, earth walk. I saw a cluster of blue-white electric light in their palms, which immediately jumped onto the whip made of water flow of the second group of companions, and controlled the conduction of electric current, shooting along the whip to the other end of the Kaguya clan members who were tied up. Only a series of screams were heard, and the Kaguya clan members were immediately hit by the electric current, and fell to the ground with their bodies charred. For a moment, they were breathing out more than breathing in. Seeing that they had no power to resist, the second group of guards, the Mist Ninja, disconnected their chakra after the electric shock, revoked the technique, and released the restraints of the water whip. The leading guard, the Mist Ninja, gestured again and said expressionlessly, "Go and see if there are any alive. If there are, take them back to prison. They dared to kill indiscriminately in the hidden mist village. We can't let them get away with it." After saying that, he spat fiercely and turned away without a trace of nostalgia. A storm was suppressed so easily by the hidden mist guard. "Let's go too." Seeing that the matter was settled, Qishuang patted the girl's shoulder. He was not surprised at the end of the Kaguya clan. Although the corpse bloodline limit gave them a unique advantage in close combat, they seemed a little stretched when facing long-range ninjutsu attacks, and their weaknesses were extremely obvious. Facing the previous group of rabble, they might still be able to struggle, but facing the organized Mist Ninja Guard, they would not even have a chance to struggle. It can be said that the ending was doomed from the moment they started fighting in Kirigakure. Then, the two of them bypassed the Mizukage building, turned into a building next to it, and entered the Kirigakure village's spell library. Although it is called a library, it is not a warehouse, but more like a library. It contains almost all the spells collected by Kirigakure village since the village was founded. It can be said that except for the spell libraries established by the other four major villages, no other force can match it. Even the ninjas of the major families with rich family traditions will come here to observe. After all, because of their own inheritance, the spells collected by the major families have extremely obvious biases, which are far less rich and diverse than the spell collections in the village. This is a rare opportunity for those guys with strong curiosity. I heard from Captain King that the spoils collected from the Snow Clan were also sent here. I have to take a good look today. What is so mysterious about the Snow Clan's ice escape? Qishuang said to the girl with great interest. The Snow Clan has the blood limit of ice release. It is not difficult to guess that the techniques collected by their clan are mainly based on ice release, supplemented by Feng Shui release. Because ice release is the foundation of the Snow Clan, it is not easy for the village to obtain it, so there were not many techniques related to ice release in the village's technique library. Now that the Snow Clan has been wiped out, their collection of ice release techniques has naturally been filled into the village's technique library. He finally had the opportunity to see the inherited secret techniques of the ice release family. Meditarumi glanced at the neatly arranged bookshelves and sighed. "Then go by yourself. I'll go look at the information on the 3 escape techniques of water, fire, and earth." She has also been here, so she naturally knows that the techniques here are not classified by attributes, but by functions. Viewers can find what they need more quickly from various functional categories according to their needs. However, the blood limit of release is different from the 5 basic escape techniques. It needs to be based on the blood limit to learn, and is not suitable for ordinary ninjas. Therefore, the bloodline limit escape technique was not included in the overall functional classification, but was separated in the technique library and became a category of its own. If Nanashi wanted to observe the ice escape technique, it meant that she had to act separately from her. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 Revelation. Then, shall we meet later? Nanashiro said to the girl with a smile. Yes. Terumi nodded. Then, Nanashiro waved goodbye and walked further inside. Blood limit secret techniques like ice escape are niche techniques. When they were separated, they were deliberately divided into remote corners. The 5 common basic escape techniques were classified and placed in the core position of the technique library for everyone to check. Not only that, the village also divided the entire technique library into 3 layers according to the difficulty of practicing various techniques and the strength of the effects. They correspond to the 3 levels of ninjas: Genin, Chunin, and Jonin. Although the techniques in the technique library are all selected and announced to everyone for free reading and practice, they are not really completely free. If you want to read the techniques of the corresponding level, you need to use your respective ninja level as proof. Genin is easy to say, as long as you can successfully graduate from school, it means that you have officially become a Genin. Chunin and Jonin, however, require extremely strict assessments to be promoted. No ninja can be promoted from a newly graduated Genin to a Chunin or even a Jonin in a very short time. This means that ninjas who become Chunin and Jonin need to go through a long period of training. This training time naturally includes the process of performing various tasks for the village. To put it bluntly, it is the merits made for the village. The so-called ninja level, in addition to being a symbol of strength and status, also contains a ninja's rich experience and merits for the village. The tasks that Jonin, Chunin, and Genin can perform have different levels of danger, and the size of their merits is naturally different. The requirements for the ninja level of the 3-level technique library, in addition to considering the different abilities of ninjas at each level and the difficulty restrictions on the ninjutsu that can be practiced, its hidden meaning is that they can only enter it with their respective merits as evidence. Because the war has stopped, it is naturally not so easy to encounter hostile Jonin when going out on missions, so Nanashiro has not yet gathered the promotion conditions for 3 Jonin. Fortunately, although he has not officially become a Jonin, he has already reached the level of a special Jonin. The so-called special Jonin refers to a Nin whose abilities have reached the level of Jonin, but whose overall level is not as good as that of a Jonin. Of course, after 2 years of accumulation, his current real strength is naturally not a special Jonin, but his ninja level is still there. At the age of 16, he has such strength. Although his talent is not as good as that of main Jetsu Kizuki and Kakashi Hatake, he is also a natural talent. Coincidentally, the Jonin qualification requirements of the 3rd level of the technique library do not exclude special Jonin, so even with Nanashiro's special Jonin level, he can enter it smoothly. However, he did not plan to enter the 3rd level directly. Although the 1st level, the Genin level techniques are of little use to him, it is always good to take a look, and it can be regarded as a kind of experience accumulation. It has a certain inspiration for him to create his own ice escape ninjutsu. Because he has been here several times, he quickly found the category of ice escape techniques in the corner of the 1st level technique library. Compared with the last time he came to read, there are obviously nearly half more scrolls on the bookshelf. Each extra scroll also meant an extra ice escape ninjutsu. Obviously, it was the spoils that the Hidden Mist village had collected from the Snow Clan. He took a scroll and slowly opened it, and found that it was a ninjutsu called Ice Arrow. It's boring. After a quick glance, he put away the scroll, and put it back on the bookshelf. It was a ninjutsu that transformed ice into feather arrows and shot them out. Except for the difference in form from the ice cones he often used, there was no difference in essence. Then, he took another scroll, and opened it to read. Just as Nanashiro was flipping through the ice escape ninjutsu, Terumi saw a scroll, and stretched out her hand, but she didn't take it down for a long time, just standing in front of the bookshelf in a daze. Because she saw a scroll with 5 different marks on the bookshelf. When the ninjutsu library classified the various ninjutsu according to their functions, it also stamped 5 different marks on the outside of each scroll. In this way, every ninja who enters the spell library can quickly find the attribute spell suitable for their own practice from different functional areas. There is no need to worry that the spell found does not match the attribute they want. Why can the spells of 5 different attributes be placed on the same bookshelf? Meditarumi asked silently in her heart. Because the different attribute spells on each bookshelf have similar functions, such as defense, attack, restriction, etc. She quickly found the answer for herself. But why can't my 3 attribute chakras of water, fire, and earth be put together harmoniously like these? She asked herself again. She felt that the way these scrolls were divided was very similar to the 3 chakras she was trying to merge. Because they don't have similar functions. Based on the classification method of the scrolls, she gave herself a similar answer. But what are similar functions? She retracted her hand, reaching for the bookshelf, looked at the ceiling above her head, and muttered to herself. She had a vague intuition that, as long as she solved the answer to this question, she would have found the key to merging the 3 chakras. In the general perception, the so-called function refers to ability. Similar functions naturally refer to similar abilities. As for chakra, the so-called function refers to the characteristics of chakra. Take water chakra for example, it has the characteristics of stamping, flow, heat absorption, etc., not just a single characteristic. When she released water chakra ninjutsu, the water chakra characteristics she exerted were also composite characteristics with one characteristic as the main characteristic and multiple characteristics as the auxiliary characteristics. If I find the similar characteristics of the 3 chakras, and then use this characteristic as a bridge, can I link the 3 chakras stably? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but show a touch of joy on her face. Then, she no longer cared to look up the information, and immediately left the technique library in a hurry, and went to the practice field. On the other side, Qishuang spent nearly an hour flipping through the first layer of ice chakra scrolls, and found that they were all some basic form changing ninjutsu. There was no outstanding, advanced technique. It seems that I underestimated other people's vision. Looking at the scrolls on the bookshelf, he smiled self-deprecatingly. When the higher-ups were categorizing the techniques, they would naturally not send someone without good eyesight to do such a thing. Therefore, the ice escape techniques that remained on the first floor were all very basic, mostly involving simple form changes that were easy for Genin to learn. As for the more complex and difficult techniques, none of them was seen. He looked them all up and only gained some basic forms of ice escape in his mind, but did not gain anything further. Then, he moved to the second floor of the technique library. Chapter 265 Ice Armor. The ice escape spells on the second floor were obviously stronger than those on the first floor. Both the complexity of the spells and the power of the spells themselves surpassed the basic spells on the next floor. However, from Qishuang's current perspective, the spells on the second floor were essentially not much different from those on the first floor. There was still no spell that surpassed the basic changes of ice escape, and nothing that made him shine. I hope the third floor won't disappoint me. He scanned all the ice escape spells on the second floor, and muttered to himself as he looked at the third floor above his head. Then, he put the scroll in his hand back on the bookshelf, and walked towards the entrance of the third floor. After the administrator's physical examination, he finally entered the last floor of the spell library. Looking around, the bookshelves in the spell library on the third floor were obviously much less than the previous 2 floors, and the entire hall seemed empty. A rough count showed that there were less than half the number of the first 2 floors. This means that the spells that were selected by the classification personnel and put here were all carefully selected goods, so the number was so scarce. Although, the extremely powerful techniques like the second Mizukage steaming danger and violent power will not appear here, the techniques stored here are far from being comparable to the superficial ones on the first 2 floors. Soon, they found the area where the ice escape techniques were stored, and Qishuang saw from a distance that there were only a dozen scrolls placed alone on the shelf. It's really rare. He sighed. Compared with the 5 basic escape techniques, bloodline limit ninjutsu is very rare. Because he is also a bloodline limit ninjutsu, he has also come into contact with many other bloodline limit ninjutsu, but he knows clearly that in the entire ninja world, the total number of bloodline limit ninjutsu is less than 1 in 10,000. The 5 basic escape techniques are the mainstream. The large population base has prompted the 5 basic escape techniques to be developed very deeply. On the other hand, bloodline limit ninjutsu can only be studied by each bloodline limit family. The manpower of both sides is unequal, and in terms of technique development and research, bloodline limit ninjutsu is much worse than the mainstream 5 major escape techniques. Fortunately, the bloodline limit ninjutsu pays the most attention to inheritance. The source of each bloodline limit is a brilliant person, and what they left behind is difficult for future generations to match. Relying on the inheritance of their ancestors, the development of bloodline limit ninjutsu is not as broad as the 5 major escape techniques, but it is also stronger than most basic escape techniques. This is also one of the reasons why bloodline limit ninjutsu is stronger than ordinary ninjutsu. Few but good. This is the current situation of bloodline limit ninjutsu. Then, he took down a scroll and slowly opened it. Isama technique. Following the name of the technique, he continued to read down. In a few minutes, he quickly scanned the records of this technique. It's quite interesting. Looking at the scroll in his hand, Qishuang said with a raised corner of his mouth. He had seen someone use this so-called Isama technique once. It was when he just returned to the village from the front line and accepted the commission to arrest the 3 brothers and sisters of the Snow Clan. He still remembered that the Snow Bear had used this trick to block the erosion of Ming's melting escape. At that time, he thought that it was just an ordinary technique that simply condensed ice on the body surface to increase defense. Now, after seeing the detailed information of this technique, he realized that this technique was not such a superficial thing. This is a technique very similar to the chakra mode. The caster will let the chakra seep out of the body and evenly distribute it on the body surface. Because chakra itself has the effect of strengthening the body's functions, the caster can gain the ability to strengthen the entire body in the process of seeping chakra. At the same time, the chakra is evenly distributed on the body surface, and a layer of substantial chakra protective film will be formed, like the chakra coat of the Jinkriki, gaining extraordinary defensive capabilities. The lightning release chakra mode passed down by the Raikage family of the Hidden Cloud Village and the melting release chakra mode of the four-tailed old purple of the Hidden Rock Village are the same type of techniques. However, because of the different properties of chakra, the abilities of the chakra mode will also be somewhat different. Nana Frost even suspected that the technique of chakra mode was a product developed based on the form of the Jinkriki's tailed beast. You know, the Rasengan of Minato Namikaze of Konoha was developed under the inspiration of the tailed beast ball of his wife, Uzumaki Kushina, the Nine-Tails Jinkriki. From this example, it is very likely that the chakra mode originated from the tailed beast transformation of the Jinkriki. Unfortunately, the Isama technique in his hand is just a defective chakra mode. This is not the problem of the original creator of this technique, but the limitation of ice escape itself. The lightning escape chakra used to perform the lightning escape chakra mode has a virtual state similar to lightning. After spreading it throughout the body, it will not affect the flexibility of the caster at all. On the contrary, lightning escape can stimulate muscle and nerve reflexes and increase the overall speed of the caster. Although the molten escape chakra in the molten escape chakra mode does not have the advantage of the lightning escape virtual state, it has the properties of a fluid and a high temperature. After spreading it all over the body, it will not affect the flexibility of the caster. On the contrary, due to the liquid state of the lava chakra, it will have a stronger defensive ability than the lightning chakra mode. After all, the substantial lava chakra is better at defense than the virtual lightning chakra. On the other hand, the ice chakra has a solidified characteristic. Once it is evenly distributed on the body surface, it will become a layer of solid ice. If it is condensed on the chest and back, where there is not much movement, it is fine, just like wearing a layer of armor. But if it is solidified in the joints such as the elbows, knees, and ankles, it will hinder the joint movement and seriously affect the caster's flexibility. In addition, the ice chakra is spread all over the body in this state. Once this technique is used, it is equivalent to freezing oneself. In theory, the defensive ability is certainly better than the lava chakra mode, but the caster can't even move his fingers in this state, just like a living target, which is simply seeking death. Therefore, ice chakra is not suitable for performing the chakra mode. I think the original creator of the Saisama technique also discovered this point, and as a second choice, simplified the chakra mode, distributing the ice chakra to most parts of the body surface, leaving the human joints, thus turning it into the Saisama. Even so, because of the ice condensed on the body surface, the flexibility of the caster will be greatly reduced after performing the ice armor technique. It can be said that this is a seriously flawed technique. However, the difficulties that predecessors could not solve do not mean that Qishuang can't. He just happened to know a way to solve this defect. Fortunately, you met me, otherwise, the pearl would be covered in dust. Looking at the scroll in his hand, he curled the corners of his mouth. Guess how I will solve the drawbacks of ice chakra mode. Chapter 266 Harvest. Then, Qishuang put the scroll of ice armor technique aside and opened another scroll. Magic mirror ice crystal? Seeing the first few words, his spirits were immediately lifted. In the story of his previous life, in the Battle of the Bridge in Wave Country, they happened to use an ice escape called Magic Mirror Ice Crystal to beat Naruto and Sasuke without any chance to fight back. It is a very powerful ice escape ninjutsu. I hope the same name is not a coincidence. With such expectation, he read along the scroll. 5 minutes later, he read through the techniques recorded in the entire scroll. A ninjutsu that attacks the enemy by creating an ice mirror and moving through the ice mirror quickly appeared in front of him. It was almost exactly the same as the technique used by Bei in the story of the previous life. It seems that the destruction of the Snow Clan is not without any benefits. Looking at the scroll in his hand, he was secretly delighted. Although this unique ice escape ninjutsu is not particularly lethal, it is both offensive and defensive, and very powerful. It is estimated that even in the former Snow Clan, it is one of the most advanced techniques, not something that ordinary people can access. Now, the Snow Clan has been destroyed, but it has benefited an outsider like him for nothing. You know, techniques like the Magic Mirror Ice Crystal should not be placed here for free reading. But it must be based on the ice escape blood limit to practice, unlike the extremely powerful steam danger violent power, which belongs to the water escape of the 5 basic escape techniques. As the trump card technique of the second generation of Mizukage, the difficulty of practicing steam danger violent power is definitely not simple, but because it belongs to the water escape, there is no threshold for practice, and any water escape ninja can try it. Therefore, this level of technique, except for the blood limit ninjutsu, the ninjutsu that ordinary people can try, has been collected by the village. It is impossible for everyone to read it for free. He can see this magic mirror ice crystal thanks to the ice escape. Because this technique belongs to ice escape, there are not many people in the whole Kirigakure who can practice it. In addition, now that the Snow Clan has been destroyed, there are even fewer people in the village who have the ice release Kekoi Genkei. Even Qishuang herself only knows that Haku, who is by Zabuza's side, has the same Kekoi Genkei as herself. At this time, there are probably less than 10 ninjas in the village who still have the ice release Kekoi Genkei. Therefore, those guys above would not care about putting this level of technique here for free viewing. Forget about making ice mirrors, but the technique of allowing the caster to shuttle through the ice mirrors can be learned. Looking at the magic mirror ice crystal in her hand, Qishuang had her own ideas. Magic mirror ice crystal can attack the enemy from different angles and can advance or retreat, leaving no chance for people to counterattack. It looks very powerful, but it also has extremely serious flaws. Using the ice mirror as a foothold, it shuttles between the ice mirrors, and its movement trajectory is naturally bound by its own ice mirrors. The opponent only needs to lock all the ice mirrors and kill the caster hidden in them in an instant. He didn't want to be knocked down by others because of this, so he just needed to learn the technique of moving in the ice. With this technique, he could use his own ice to move, whether it was to escape or to launch a sneak attack. It was the best method. Then, he put the scroll of magic mirror ice crystal next to ice armor technique and continued to look through the other ice escape techniques. It took him nearly an hour to finally browse through the third layer of ice escape techniques. There were several good defensive techniques, but he already had his own frost wall, so he didn't like those techniques at all. There were also a few techniques that were somewhat similar to magic mirror ice crystal, which also use the technique of moving in the ice to attack the enemy. They were techniques with repeated functions, so he put them back on the shelf. The remaining techniques were purely offensive techniques, and one of them was a technique that froze the opponent and then broke the ice to kill the opponent, which left a deep impression on him. However, he had no shortage of offensive spells, and he also had to comprehend the secrets of ice escape, so he could not spare too much energy, and therefore gave up that move. In the end, in addition to knowing a lot of ways to use ice escape, the biggest gains he made in the spell library were the ice armor technique and the magic mirror ice crystal. Then, he found the administrator of the spell library on the 3rd floor. "Uncle, give me 2 blank scrolls and some writing brushes," he said to a stern-looking Miss Ninja. The man only glanced at him, then turned around and took out 2 scrolls and writing brushes from under the counter and said expressionlessly, "A total of 100,000 teals." Qishuang was shocked when he heard this, and although it was very painful, he still took out 100,000 teals from his pocket and gave it to the other party to pay for the 2 scrolls and writing brushes. The spell scrolls in the spell library cannot be borrowed, so many people choose to copy down the spells they like after finding them and take them back to study slowly. There are a few stubborn people who choose to memorize it by rote, but people with photographic memory are few and far between. It is impossible to memorize it in a short time. Copying it has become the choice of most people, but copying requires blank paper as a carrier and writing ink. In addition, no one will carry ink and blank scrolls with them. When many people find the art they like, they will encounter difficulties in copying without tools. Therefore, the Hidden Mist Village considerately opened a business of selling blank scrolls and ink in the art library. Although it is much more expensive than outside, there are still many people like Qishuang who are greedy for convenience and do not plan to save money. Therefore, the art library makes a lot of money from this project every day. After copying down the ice armor art and magic mirror ice crystal with great effort, Qishuang prepared to look for Meitarumi, who came to the art library to check the information. Unfortunately, he searched all 3 floors of the art library one by one, but still could not find the other party. Could it be that she has already gone out? He thought silently while looking at the exit of the 1st floor. A living person cannot evaporate out of thin air, so he can only conclude that Ming has left. Why did she leave without calling me? He pondered as he walked towards the exit. After leaving the ritual library, Qishuang went straight to the practice field they often went to. He and Meitarumi came to the ritual library to find inspiration, hoping to find an opportunity to break through the status quo. Unless there is something urgent, Ming will not leave without saying goodbye. He guessed that Ming might have gained something, so she left in a hurry and even forgot to notify him. Before stepping into the practice field, Qishuang saw a familiar figure from a distance, sitting cross-legged on the ground brewing something. "There was an earthquake last night. I'm very close to Yibin, and my soul was scared away. I just woke up in the morning and there was another wave of aftershocks. 2019.6.18. Chapter 267 Two Types. When he got closer, he found that there were 3 strands of chakra with different auras in the girl's palm, entangled together and turned into a chakra energy ball. Ming was trying to fuse 3 kinds of chakra. Knowing the danger, he did not dare to disturb her, but just stood quietly by the side and alerted the surrounding environment to prevent any unexpected situation. Bang! The chakra energy ball brewing in the girl's hand exploded, and crisscrossing bloodstains appeared on her 2 white palms. Failed again. Looking at the bloodstains on her palms, Meitarumi sighed helplessly. If it was so easy for you to succeed, then the ninja world would not have only had the dust release as a bloodline elimination until now. A familiar voice came from the side, and she turned her head and saw that it was Nana Frost. It should be, because she was too focused when trying to fuse chakras before, so she did not notice the other party's arrival. Pulling over the Tuskard hands, Qishuang asked with concern, "How are you injured? Do you want to go to the hospital?" As he spoke, he took out a bottle of medicine from his pocket and gently sprinkled the medicine powder on the other's wound. It was specially prepared for Ming. In order to fuse the 3 chakras, Ming's hands were often injured by the uncontrolled chakra energy, so he prepared a bottle of medicine on him to deal with this situation. Terumi Mei shook her head and said softly, "It's nothing serious, just some flesh wounds. Didn't you say you wanted to read the recently stored ice escape secrets of the Snow Clan? Why did you come out?" She looked at the boy who was close at hand, her eyes full of confusion. Seeing the bloodstains on the girl's palm gradually solidified, Qishuang put away the medicine bottle and said unhappily, "Didn't you come out too? Why can't I come out? Besides, I have already gained something. Why can't I come out?" As he spoke, he slowly took out 2 scrolls from his pocket, revealing a somewhat smug smile. "What about you? Why did you come out?" He looked at the girl and asked. Terumi Mei pulled back her hand and said with a little frustration, "After parting with you, I found a hint of inspiration for fusing multiple chakras from the scroll classification method in the ritual library, so I hurried out." She thought that with that hint of inspiration, the experiment of fusing chakras would soon make a breakthrough, but she didn't expect that it was still the same as before, with no progress. Scroll classification? Qishuang was a little confused. Then, Terumi Mei told her all her thoughts. Qishuang listened thoughtfully, pinched her chin, and said tentatively, "According to what you said, I have another idea." Huh? Terumi Mei was a little surprised. She didn't expect that the other party could actually draw new things from her perception. Sitting cross-legged next to the girl, Nana Shuang spread his hands, gathered the 2 chakras in his palms, and said slowly, "Each chakra has many characteristics. Through similar characteristics, different chakras have the possibility of stable combination. It's like apples and oranges. The 2 are completely different, but if we talk about fruits, we can still classify them together. This is your perception. But for me, there is another way for different chakras to cooperate and connect with each other." As he said, he changed the chakras in his left and right hands into wind and water properties respectively, and then slowly closed his hands to let the 2 chakras merge together. Then, Terumi saw that in his hand, in the middle of the fusion of the 2 chakras, a burst of cold air burst out, and small ice crystals were condensing. Seeing the girl was absorbed in watching, Qishuang continued to explain, "Ice is another form of water. In other words, my ice escape is actually another form of water escape. Therefore, my wind escape chakra, which constitutes the ice escape chakra, does not essentially change the fundamental composition of the water escape chakra. It just plays a catalytic role, accelerating the condensation of water and turning it into ice. The 2 are in a master-slave relationship. From this point of view, the fusion of the 3 chakra changes does not necessarily require the reorganization and connection of the 3 chakras to form a stable composition. Perhaps, you can try to make the 3 cooperate with each other to achieve a new balance." After saying that, he withdrew the chakra in his hand, and the glittering ice crystals in his palm quickly dissipated into the air. In his opinion, Ming's idea is feasible, but too dangerous. The fusion of different chakras is already very dangerous. Using similar characteristics to connect is like putting the tips of 3 different weapons together, and through the contact of the tips, the 3 become a whole. But if there is a slight accident, the tips of the 3 weapons will poke each other, causing unpredictable consequences, which is very dangerous. His idea of cooperation is obviously much safer. Chakras cooperate with each other and coexist in a harmonious state. In the trial stage, there is no need to control them too forcefully, which can greatly weaken the intensity of the conflict between chakras. The difference between the 2 ideas is that the former is more dangerous, but if it succeeds by chance, the new chakra structure with 3 similar characteristics will definitely have extraordinary power. The latter idea is safer and the possibility of success is naturally greater, but in terms of effect, it is definitely worse than the previous one. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. Next to him, after listening to his words, Terumi fell into deep thought. From Nana Shuang's ice escape, she thought of her own melting escape. The water escape and earth escape that construct the melting escape chakra are also complementary to each other. Water soaks the soil, making it sticky, and at the same time, it can evaporate water and exert hardening characteristics. As for many other characteristics of melting escape, they are also exerted through the cooperation of the 2. Only the corrosion characteristic is the abrasion characteristic of running water and the crushing characteristic of soil weathering, which are the overlapping and sublimation of these two similar characteristics. This one, in fact, coincided with her perception. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, looking at her scarred hands, and murmured, "Maybe, I know what to do." On the other side, Zigwashan Puffer Ghost hardened his hair into steel needles in a secluded alley, and ambushed and killed a passing Miss Ninja. Then he stroked the huge weapon with bandages on the other part of his body, and whispered, "My lovely baby, I'm here to pick you up." That is the big sword Sumehada. Since the last battle for the Mizukage, Sumehada has changed hands twice, and finally fell into the hands of Gotachibana Yagura, the current 4th Mizukage. Originally, he thought he would never have the chance to regain control of Sumehada, but he didn't expect that 3 months later, Sumehada was actually sent to the Hazuki family. It is said that the 4th generation was not used to it and was tired of playing with it, so he gave it back to Hazuki Manayu. But the Kid clan already had 4 ninja swords, so perhaps to prevent everyone from being suspicious, or perhaps to make friends with him, the Kid clan sent Sumehada over. Chapter 268 Resonance. Unfortunately, at that time, he was seriously injured by Maingetsu Kizuki and was lying in the hospital for treatment. It was difficult for him to even get out of bed. How could he dare to take over the hot potato of Sumehada? Therefore, when he got Sumehada, he hurriedly sent his trusted subordinates to send it out, for fear that it would attract the assassination of other Mist Ninjas. As a result, many Mist Ninjas died in the fight for Sumehada in the past 2 years in the Hidden Mist Village. Now, nearly 2 years have passed, and his injuries have almost recovered. It's a pity that, because of the blow of Might Day in his early years and the explosion of Maingetsu Kizuki later, his body was injured, and his strength could not return to the past. At present, even if he takes back Sumehada, it is far from the heyday of the year. However, it is enough to take control of Sumehada again, and return to the position of the 7 ninja swordsmen. Then, he took Sumehada off the dead, kicked the body away, and strode out of the alley. At the same time, the Kaguya clan also received news that their fellow clan members had gone to Kirigakure, and were all killed. In the ancestral hall, the Kaguya clan surrounded the clan leader and chattered, "Clan leader, the 4th generation kid doesn't take our Kaguya clan seriously at all, and doesn't agree with our return to Kirigakure. Now, he has killed all of us who went to Kirigakure to negotiate. I think it is necessary for us to let everyone in Kirigakure see the majesty of our Kaguya clan again. Yes. Bloodbath Kirigakure. We are going to kill our way in." For a moment, the crowd was furious and murderous, and it was hard to believe that this group of warlike lunatics really had the ability to turn Kirigakure upside down. Silence, silence. The old clan leader desperately pounded his cane, but he was so old that he even had difficulty walking. The cane only made a mosquito-like sound when it was pounded on the floor, and it couldn't suppress the voices of the crowd at all. Fortunately, although the Hyuga clan members were unruly to the outside world, they were very harmonious and united internally. They were very respectful to the old clan leader, and no one dared to neglect him. Therefore, after hearing the hoarse and weak voice, everyone immediately shut up, and the ancestral hall suddenly fell silent. The old man glanced at everyone, and said with great sorrow, "Do you think you can embarrass Kirigakure? Don't talk big. Your impulsiveness can only bring disaster to my Hyuga clan. No one is allowed to mention the attack on Kirigakure village again. But, what should we do with our dead clan members? Can we just let it go?" A Hyuga clan member shouted dissatisfiedly. "No, we can't just let it go." Immediately, a Hyuga clan member followed suit. Silence. The old patriarch shouted, suppressing everyone's anger again. He patiently said to everyone, "As for this matter, I will send someone else to Kirigakure to ask for clarification. Before that, I don't want any of you to act recklessly. Did you hear me?" Facing the old man's sharp eyes, everyone lowered their heads unwillingly and responded, "I understand. They can disobey the orders of the Mizukage, but they cannot disobey the orders of the patriarch. This is the teaching that every member of the Kaguya tribe has been imprinted in their hearts since childhood. Therefore, despite many reluctances in their hearts, everyone still agreed. In Kirigakure village, after completing a task commissioned to eliminate thieves, Qishuang began to study the magic mirror ice crystal. As for the ice armor technique, he planned to leave it behind to deal with it. His purpose is not to learn the ice armor technique, but to improve and create the ice release chakra mode, based on the theoretical basis of the ice armor technique. This technique requires the distribution of chakra throughout the body, to achieve control of the chakra throughout the body, which is not something that can be done in a short time, so he decided to study the magic mirror ice crystal first. From the magic mirror ice crystal, extract the method of moving in the ice mirror. After all, this kind of extraction and induction is much easier than creation and perfection. He took out the scroll that recorded the magic mirror ice crystal and slowly opened it. After reading it carefully, he moved 2 steps to the side and stomped his feet lightly. A cluster of ice cubes rose from the ground. Soon, a half-foot thick and 6-foot high ice wall appeared beside him. Then he placed one hand on the ice wall, closed his eyes, recalled the information he had just seen from the scroll, slowly output a chakra from his palm, and then connected the chakra just output with the chakra remaining in the ice. According to the records on the magic mirror ice crystal, as long as one's own chakra is connected with the chakra in the ice mirror and resonates, the resonance can make the caster become a part of the ice mirror. The ice body of the ice mirror no longer ejects his own body, thus achieving the effect of allowing the caster to move freely in the ice mirror. If the chakra is exchanged through resonance, the caster can change his position in the ice mirror at will according to the exchange of chakra, and quickly avoid the enemy's attack. Thinking of this, Qishuang slowly adjusted the chakra fluctuations he output to make it reach the same standard as the chakra in the ice mirror. Through the connection of the chakra output from his hand, he soon received a strange feeling, as if he had become a part of the ice wall. He suddenly opened his eyes and found that the hand he had placed on the ice wall had been embedded in the ice wall unconsciously. Could it be that the feeling just now is the so-called resonance? Looking at the arm embedded in the ice wall, he thought silently. Just as he was about to pull his arm out of the ice wall, he found that he had escaped from the feeling just now. His body was rejected by the ice wall and was completely stuck in it, and he could no longer pull it out freely. Then, he spent a lot of effort to regain the resonance feeling just now and successfully pulled his arm out of the ice wall. Isn't this technique particularly difficult to learn? Why does the magic mirror ice crystal record that most people need a month to master it? Rubbing his wrist, he looked at the ice wall in front of him with some confusion. After thinking for a long time, he finally realized that it was not that the scroll was wrong, but because he had studied the nature of ice escape in depth, his understanding of the changes in ice escape techniques had increased, thus reducing the difficulty of learning. It's like mastering the junior high school curriculum, and it's easy to do small homework exercises. For those who only know the basic changes of ice escape, it is indeed difficult to get started with this technique, but for someone like him who has deeply comprehended ice escape, it is as easy as eating and drinking water. This level of ninjutsu is no longer difficult for him. After figuring this out, he was overjoyed. He never thought that studying the nature of ice escape in depth would have such benefits. However, this method of moving through resonance and replacing chakra is so similar to the substitute technique. Recalling the feeling of resonance just now, he had another question in his mind. Chapter 269 Prelude. Substitution technique is a technique that leaves a small item in place to conceal the attacker's presence before being attacked, and then quietly moves away a short distance. There are some differences between the movement technique and the magic mirror ice crystal, but both require chakra as a mark to be performed, especially the feeling of resonance with the chakra mark, which is very similar. He can't help but suspect that this is a sublimation technique of the substitution technique. Taking the substitution technique as an extension, he thought of Minato Namikaze's flying thunder god technique. The similarity between the flying thunder god technique and the magic mirror ice crystal is even higher. But the difference is that the movement technique in the magic mirror ice crystal is limited by ice and distance. The caster can only move in the ice and use ice as a medium, and it must be ice made by himself. Natural ice is of course not possible. Not only that, the ice used as a foothold is also limited by the distance of the cast. The effective casting distance of a normal person is about 20 meters, and it will be difficult to control chakra at a distance of more than 20 meters. Qishuang estimated that the maximum distance of creating an ice mirror through the air is about 20 meters. This means that under normal circumstances, the distance that the caster can move through the ice mirror each time will not exceed 20 meters. If you want to create an endless layer of ice, it is not impossible to break through this distance limit, but it is obviously not wise to consume a lot of chakra to create ice cubes, just to break through the limit of moving distance. The Flying Thunder God technique completely abandons the moving medium and directly travels through space, moving from one location to another, and the distance is far beyond the magic mirror ice crystal. From the performance of Minato Namikaze in the previous life story, the moving distance of the Flying Thunder God technique is as long as several thousand meters, which is far beyond the comparison of the magic mirror ice crystal. Thinking of this, Qishuang couldn't help but sigh. It's a pity that the introduction to the space-time technique is too profound. Otherwise I can also try to study the secrets of the Flying Thunder God technique. One's own family knows one's own business. Although he knows the general principle of the Flying Thunder God technique, knowing is one thing, and whether he can get started is another. The power of space and time was too ethereal to make him completely confused. Although he knew some simple sealing techniques, it was just a superficial way to activate the power of space and time according to the fixed hand seal arrangement. He was still a long way from truly using the power of space and time. However, there was such a magic mirror ice crystal, which was a little consolation. Then, in order to familiarize himself with the skills of moving quickly in the ice, he quickly put it into actual combat and began to practice shuttling through the ice repeatedly. Inspired by the previous experience, Meditarumi, who was on the same team, also started a new round of fusion attempts. She combined Nana Frost's ideas with her own insights, and planned to first use mutual cooperation as a basis, to allow the three chakras to temporarily coexist stably, and then overlap the similar characteristics of the three chakras to form a new stable structure. In this way, she had the hope of achieving bloodline elimination. But it was too difficult to directly coordinate the three chakras, so she planned to start with the coordination of two chakras, and then add the third one. Excluding the water and earth coordination that already existed in the melting escape, she still had two options left, fire and earth coordination and water and fire coordination. No matter which one you choose, fire attribute chakra is indispensable, and the remaining choice is between water and earth. I'm not good at earth escape, and my control over earth attribute chakra is far less than that of water attribute chakra. I think it should be easier to choose water attribute chakra and fire attribute chakra together. After some thought, she made a decision. Then, she gathered chakra in her hands, transformed the nature of water and fire respectively, and then slowly brought them together, trying to make the two sides temporarily stabilize through mutual cooperation. Unfortunately, water overcomes fire, and her perception of water escape is much stronger than fire escape, and the practice time of fire escape is still short, which is the worst of all her escape techniques. Hiss, the two chakras just met, and the fire attribute chakra was immediately annihilated by the water attribute chakra. Water attribute chakra is too strong. I have to reduce the amount of water attribute chakra. After the failure, she quickly summed up the reasons and started the experiment again. Water has the property of absorbing heat and vaporizing, and fire can just provide the heat for water vaporization, which is a kind of cooperation. Silently reciting the relationship between water and fire, she controlled the water attribute chakra to absorb the fire attribute chakra. Bang! After absorbing a part of the fire attribute chakra, the water attribute chakra group exploded again. The ratio of the two is wrong. Try again. After another failure, Terumi Mei continued to experiment without discouragement. Fail. Try again. Fail. Try again. In the Mizukage building, King was reporting the situation to the young 4th Mizukage. 4th Mizukage, according to the intelligence department, the Kaguya clan has been repeatedly rejected, and the last time a clan member was killed, and there has been unrest in the clan. I'm afraid there will be some trouble. Yagira, who was lying in the chair, waved his hand and said lazily, what kind of trouble can there be? Could it be that they dare to rebel? He hated those guys who were full of calcium and would come to quarrel with him every once in a while, or even fight with him. If possible, he didn't want to hear any news about them. Why don't they dare? Looking at the young Mizukage who didn't care, King smiled bitterly and replied, according to the intelligence department, if it weren't for the old patriarch of the Kagura clan, those warlike guys would have really come in now. Come on, I'll kill one with one stick, just in time for peace. Yagura said with his teeth bared, holding the coral stick. Hearing this, King wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and advised earnestly, sir, you are of noble status, how can you fight with them casually? Besides, the village lost the Tay-style Wind clan and the Ice-style Snow clan a few years ago. Now, the war has just begun, and it is still in the recuperation stage. If the Kagura clan is gone, I'm afraid the situation in the village will be worrying. Just as Konoha has several pillar families to support it, Kirigakure originally also has 6 pillar families, namely, the Wind clan, the Snow clan, the Terumi clan, the Kagura clan, the Hazuki clan, and the Hashigaki clan. Now that the 2 families of Fenksu have been wiped out for their rebellion, only 4 major families remain. Among these 4 major families, the Kagura family is already on the decline due to the bloodline limit disease and the losses in the previous war. If the Kagura family is also damaged, there will only be 3 major families left in the Hidden Mist village. It is unknown when the village will be able to recover from such a loss. If the other 4 villages start a war again, the Hidden Mist village will be in danger. Okay, stop nagging. Ao's chattering made Yagura unbearable, so he had to wave his hand and said, you can handle the affairs of the Kagura family by yourselves, don't bother me. After that, he used a body flash technique and disappeared from the chair in an instant. He had no interest in these messy government affairs. In his opinion, instead of spending time on these boring things, it would be better to go shopping on the street, try some delicious food, or play some games. The unemployment of the 4th generation made Ao and his people helpless. Finally, after some discussion, they decided to send someone to express their condolences to the Kagura clan. By the way, they also wanted to find out what the Kagura clan had to say. If the Kagura clan insisted on returning to Kirigakure, it was not impossible to discuss it. After all, if the Kagura clan rebelled because of this incident, it would really not be worth it. If you think that the following plot is just to write about the demise of the Kagura clan, then you underestimate me. In fact, I have interspersed more than one plot in many plots. It's just that many people didn't pay attention, always only looking at the surface and ignoring a lot. The plot of the Kagura clan is especially important. If someone skips chapters, it's really a pity. I believe you will look back. Let me reveal the truth. I wrote about the plot of the Kagura clan on the surface, but in fact I wrote about the opportunity for Nana Qishuang to obtain the fairy art. Is it very sudden? Is it very unexpected? Ha ha ha. Chapter 270 The Wind Rises. At the port of the main island in the center of the land of water, a man with black hair, golden eyes and purple eyeshadow appeared. On the shore, a boy wearing glasses and a black cloak immediately came to greet him. Hello, Lord Orochimaru. The boy with glasses lowered his voice and nodded in greeting. Glancing at the port, where people were coming and going, Orochimaru replied with a smile, let's leave here first, Kabuto. The boy with glasses, his full name is Kabuto Yakushi. He is a professional spy of Konoha, and also his spy in Konoha. Yes. Kabuto responded, and then led the way in front, leading Orochimaru to a remote forest. How is the information I asked you to find? With his hands folded across his chest and huddled in the sleeves of his yukata, Orochimaru asked calmly. Everything went well, Lord Orochimaru. Kabuto said, while taking out an envelope from his arms and handing it over. Taking the envelope, Orochimaru opened it, and a clear photo immediately came into his eyes. There was a little boy with white hair and triangular teeth printed on it. He looked no more than 2 or 3 years old. His 2 purple eyes revealed a unique aura. He looked extraordinary. After taking the photo out of the envelope and turning it over, Orochimaru immediately saw a line of beautiful small characters written on the back. It was Kabuto's handwriting. Name, Sujetsu Kizuki, the second son of the current leader of the Kizuki clan. After testing by the Kizuki family, he has a talent that is not inferior to his brother Maingetsu Kizuki. After reading it, Orochimaru put it back into the envelope and took out the other information in the envelope and read it through. There was a rough drawing of the defense of the Hidden Mist Village and the Kozuki family. Although it was not perfect and thoughtful, it was enough for him. This little guy is too young. After taking another look at the photo in the envelope, Orochimaru said in a hoarse voice, "Doesn't he have an older brother? Why haven't you been collecting information about him?" Kabuto pushed the frame of his glasses on his nose and said slowly, "The older brother of Hazuki Kizuki is named Hazuki Kizuki Manayu, who became famous in the battle for the position of Mizukage 2 years ago. I believe you have heard of his name, a child prodigy who wields ninja swords. If it weren't for Yagura, who became a perfect Jinchuriki, who would be the 4th generation Mizukage today." After saying that, he chuckled twice. So it was him? Orochimaru then remembered that in the battle for the position of Mizukage in the Hidden Mist Village that caused a sensation 2 years ago, in addition to the perfect 3-tailed Jinchuriki who shocked the ninja world, there was also a child prodigy who wielded multiple ninja swords. However, because the brilliance of the perfect Jinchuriki was too dazzling, the unlucky child prodigy was somewhat eclipsed. Therefore, most people only remember that there was a perfect Jinchuriki in the Hidden Mist Village, but few people noticed that there was a boy who defeated the 7 ninja swordsmen. Seeing that Orochimaru had some impression, Kabuto continued, "In the battle for the Mizukage, main Jetsu Kizuki was hit by the tailed beast ball head-on, leaving irreversible injuries and only half of his strength left. In the past 2 years, he has been living in seclusion and rarely shows up. No one knows what his situation is. According to my guess, although his strength is not as good as in his heyday, he is not a character that ordinary ninjas can deal with. In addition, with 4 ninja swords in his hands, it will not be an easy task even for Lord Orochimaru to take him down. Once his whereabouts are exposed, it will be difficult for Lord Orochimaru to leave the Hidden Mist Village. So, I think it would be easier for you to attack that main Jetsu Kizuki." Hearing this, Orochimaru stuffed the envelope into his arms and said nothing more. The reason why Kabuto investigated the main Jetsu clan was all because of his orders. In order to make his snake-like body more perfect, he wanted to have the ability of the Hazuki clan to liquefy and be immune to physical attacks. So, he ordered Kabuto Yakushi, who was lurking in the Hidden Mist Village, to investigate the intelligence of the Hazuki clan. Finally, he personally took action and captured an experimental subject from the Hazuki family and took it back to study slowly. After all, the water transformation technique of the Hazuki family is not a simple water escape ninjutsu, but a technique developed by the Hazuki clan, based on their own special physique. It is not an ability that can be cultivated by obtaining the water transformation technique. Therefore, he plans to capture a Hazuki clan member with pure blood to study. An experimental subject with pure blood is naturally more convenient for experimentation than a guy with mixed blood. Okay, there's nothing for you to do. Go down and get busy. After putting away the envelope, Orochimaru waved to the boy with glasses. Yes. Kabuto nodded and was about to turn around and leave, but suddenly he remembered something and turned back and said, "I received a letter from Konoha saying that they have arranged a new undercover mission for me and asked me to get out as soon as possible. Maybe I will leave the Land of Water in a few days and cannot help you for the time being." Orochimaru sneered and asked, "Where is that old Guidanza going to arrange for you to go?" "To the Hidden Rock Village." Kabuto replied calmly. "Okay, I know, go down." Orochimaru waved his hand and looked at the foggy sky, not looking at the boy again. Seeing this, Kabuto said nothing more, turned around and left quietly, disappearing into the dark shade of the trees. At the same time, the envoy sent by the Hidden Mist Village to express condolences to the Kaguya clan also arrived at the destination. Unfortunately, many Kaguya clan members did not seem to welcome him and surrounded him. In the end, it was the old patriarch of the Kaguya clan who came out to rescue him and disperse many murderous clan members and then welcomed him into his living room. What a rare guest. Kirigakure hasn't sent anyone to our Kaguya clan for a long time. The old patriarch happily poured a cup of tea for the Kirigakure visitor. The arrival of an envoy means that Kirigakure has not forgotten them. The hope of the Kaguya clan's return is naturally not cut off. What he fears most is that Kirigakure will completely abandon them and let them fend for themselves outside. You know, because the clan members are belligerent and difficult to get along with, even outsiders are unwilling to live in the same village with them. In the end, the Kaguya clan had to form their own village. But out of the comfortable environment of Kirigakure, everything has to be self-reliant. Even to buy some daily necessities, you have to go a long way. Therefore, the Kaguya clan has been living a very difficult life since they were expelled from Kirigakure. After the war, many members of the clan were killed and injured, and the pressure of life was heavy. The situation in the clan was not good, so he sent people to Kirigakure every now and then to ask the fourth generation to let them return to Kirigakure. Who would have thought that such a thing would happen a few days ago, which really worried him. Now, before he could arrange people to go to Kirigakure to inquire, the Kirigakure envoy arrived first, which made him a little more happy. The Kirigakure envoy picked up the teacup and took a sip. After feeling the bitter taste in the tea, he couldn't help but frowned. This tea is too bad. He had heard that the Kaguya clan had a hard time, but he didn't expect that they didn't even have a cup of decent tea. Helplessly, he had to put down the teacup and whispered, "To make a long story short, the village sent me here to ask, what is the current situation of the Kaguya clan? Do they have to return to Kirigakure?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271. The rain arrives. The old clan leader sighed, pointed at the teapot in front of him, and said with a wry smile, "My envoy, you can see that I can't even take out a pot of decent tea. You can imagine how difficult the life of the Kaguya clan is now. We really want to return to the Hidden Mist village. The reason why their lives are like this is not only because they are far away from the inconvenience of collective transactions, but also because the clan members are difficult to get along with. Because of their bellicosity and madness, most people are reluctant to interact with them, which makes it very difficult for their clan members to go out to purchase daily necessities. Once they encounter such a situation, most of the clan members will choose to use force to solve the dilemma. In this way, outsiders are even more afraid of them. Originally, there were still some residents around the Kaguya clan, but after so many years of devastation by the clan members, there is no one living within a radius of 10 miles. It is difficult to buy things even with money, and you can't find a target if you want to rob. The days are getting worse day by day. The Kirigakure envoy also sighed and said helplessly, "The village also asked me to bring a message. If the Kaguya clan wants to return to Kirigakure, it is not completely impossible, but the Kaguya people can no longer be as reckless and kill people indiscriminately as before. You must set strict clan rules to restrain the clan members. The village rules are not taken seriously by the Kaguya people at all. The only thing that can restrain them is the Kaguya clan's own clan rules." "Really? That's great. That's great." Hearing this, the old patriarch excitedly tapped his cane, making a thumping sound on the floor. The sallow and wrinkled face was also filled with blood because of excitement, revealing a strange blood-red color. "Our Kaguya clan can finally return to Kirigakure." Ha ha ha. The laughter stopped abruptly, and the old man suddenly widened his eyes, pointed at the Kirigakure envoy sitting opposite him, and lowered his head. "Hey, what's wrong with you?" The messenger's eyelids jumped, and he hurriedly patted the old man's shoulder and asked anxiously, but the old man sat opposite him without any response, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding in his heart. How could he know that? Because most of the Kaguya people were good at using force to solve problems, and were extremely impulsive. The old man had never found a suitable candidate to take over the position of the chief. He is still in his 80s, and cannot step down. He is worried about the future of the tribe every day. Now, he heard the hope of returning to Kirigakure, and he was too excited for a while, and his blood surged up, bursting the cerebral cortex, causing severe cerebral congestion and death. What happened? Hearing the laughter of the chief in the house suddenly stop, the two Kaguya people at the door rushed in immediately. I saw that the hateful Kirigakure messenger was putting his dirty hands on the old chief's shoulders, and I didn't know what he was doing. The old chief sat opposite the Kirigakure messenger with his head drooped, motionless, and there seemed to be a dead air on him. Get out of here. One of them pushed aside the Kirigakure messenger next to him and shouted to the old man cautiously, "Old Patriarch? Old Patriarch." However, the old man stared at him but did not respond at all. Then, he trembled and put his index finger under the old patriarch's nose. "What's wrong?" the other person asked nervously. At the same time, while the two people's attention was on the old man, the Kirigakure messenger quietly slipped out of the hall. Judging from the situation just now, the situation of the old patriarch Kaguya might not be good. In addition, the Kaguya people did not like him in the first place, and he might not be able to defend himself at that time. If he expected to reason with the Kaguya clan and explain slowly, it would be impossible. You know, the Kaguya clan is a famous lunatic who would never talk if they could take action. For the sake of safety, he felt that it was better for him to leave. In the hall, the Kaguya clan member who was trying to smell the old clan leader's breath turned his head mechanically and said to his companion tremblingly, the old clan leader is dead." "What?" The man was shocked and hurriedly pushed his companion away and put his ear to the old man's chest. But he found that the old man's chest was dead silent and he couldn't hear a heartbeat. Only then did he confirm the fact that the old clan leader was dead. "Where is that bastard?" Just after accepting this fact, the two were about to capture the Kirigakure envoy and torture him to ask about the process and reason of the old clan leader's death. Unexpectedly, there was no trace of each other in the hall. "I'm going to kill him," the two roared to the sky, and the shrill voice resounded throughout the Kaguya clan's residence. Hearing this voice, the Kaguya clan members who didn't know what was going on rushed to the old clan leader's residence. At the same time, the Kirigakure envoy who had just escaped from the Kaguya clan's residence also heard this voice. After seeing the Kaguya clan members moving in groups, he became more determined to run away. If they were caught by the Hyuga clan, the consequences would be disastrous. Outside the old patriarch's residence, a large group of Hyuga clan members heard the noise and came. Soon, there was a sea of people. What happened? Someone stood outside the hall and asked anxiously. Because it was the patriarch's residence, although everyone was very anxious, they still resisted the urge to break in. Not long after, the two guards of the old patriarch carried the old man out. In the eyes of many puzzled people, the two carefully laid the old patriarch on the ground, and then knelt down in front of the old man with a thud, crying loudly to everyone. "The old patriarch is dead. The old patriarch is dead." This sudden news fell on everyone's head like a bolt from the blue, and they couldn't catch their breath for a long time. After a long while, a hot-tempered Hyuga clan member rushed up. Or rather, the tempers of the Hyuga clan members were not very good, and this one was even worse. He grabbed the collars of the two people in one hand and immediately lifted them up. "What happened? How could the clan leader suddenly die?" he asked the two people with red eyes and a ferocious face, and his spit was unscrupulously sprayed around because of anger. If he hadn't taken into account the feelings of the same clan, he would have wanted to kill these two useless guards. "We don't know what happened. We only know that the old clan leader and the envoy from Kirigakure were communicating in the living room. Then we heard the old clan leader's laughter suddenly stopped, and we rushed in to check and found that the old clan leader had died." One person replied with a sad face. "Then, where is the envoy from Kirigakure?" the man continued to ask with an angry face. Run away," the other person stammered. "Asshole." Hearing this, the man could no longer suppress his anger and threw the two people to the ground. Then he turned around and shouted to everyone, "What are you still standing there for? Go out and look for him. The death of the old patriarch must be related to that bastard. We must not let him get away." Hearing this, the Hyuga clan members nodded and immediately dispersed, searching in all directions for the trace of the Kirigakure messenger. Unfortunately, they were a bit slower, and the Kirigakure man knew something was wrong, so he didn't dare to stop along the way, and ran to Kirigakure village at full speed. The Hyuga clan members were busy until dark, but didn't catch him. That night, the Hyuga clan convened a clan meeting. When you are old, don't celebrate for the elderly. Too much joy and too much sorrow can kill people. Funny body protection. Chapter 272, Clouds Gathering. The old clan leader died in an unclear way. We must catch that bastard and ask him for the truth. Someone shouted. But we haven't caught that bastard yet. I'm afraid he has already escaped to the hidden mist village. Someone immediately poured a basin of cold water on him. What are you afraid of? Someone immediately jumped up and said loudly to everyone, what about the hidden mist village? We, the Kagura clan, are not afraid of death, so how can we be afraid of them? Have you forgotten that they killed many of our fellow clansmen some time ago? We can't just let the old clan leader go. We must not only rush into the hidden mist village and find that bastard, but also take this opportunity to let those bastards in the hidden mist village know how powerful our Kagura clan is. We must make them agree to our return to the hidden mist. Hearing this, someone immediately interrupted and said, what if they still don't agree? The man clenched his palms and said viciously, then destroy the hidden mist village. If they don't let us have an easy life, we can't let them have an easy life. Hearing this last sentence, everyone's eyes suddenly lit up, and they were very excited. There is no race in the entire ninja world that is more warlike than them. For them, fighting is the source of happiness. They would rather fight to death than die in obscurity in the wilderness. Suddenly, someone shouted, destroy the Kirigakure village. Everyone immediately shouted together, destroy the Kirigakure village. Destroy the Kirigakure village. Unconsciously, the goal of capturing the Kirigakure messenger has changed. No one cares about whether they can return to Kirigakure anymore. Most people seem to have taken stimulants, and the only thing left in their minds is the idea of killing their way into Kirigakure. Occasionally, there are a few guys with reasonable brains who always feel that something is wrong, but they are infected by the atmosphere of the killing sound, and finally they are loyal to their bodies and indulge in the crazy atmosphere. The death of the old patriarch seems to be the last straw that broke the camel's back for the Kagura clan. Countless rejections and the tragic deaths of their fellow clansmen have made the Kagura clan, who have been suppressed for a long time, release their dissatisfaction in their hearts, and they have completely exploded. That night, all the Kagura clan members who were still able to fight, whether old or young, male or female, walked out of their homes. They were going to kill their way into the hidden mist village. Only death and blood could satisfy them. On the way to the hidden mist village, seeing the brightly lit village with the sound of killing, Orochimaru hid in the dark with interest and observed carefully. It turned out to be a madman from the Kagura clan. There will be a good show tonight. Looking at the group of Kagura clan members, he licked the corner of his mouth and showed a meaningful smile. Although he did not know the full situation of the Kagura clan, he still managed to understand from everyone's conversation that the Kagura clan was going to rebel and go to war with the hidden mist village. On the other side, the messenger who fled back to the hidden mist village immediately reported the suspected death of the Kagura clan leader and the unusual movements of the Kagura clan. After receiving his news, the top leaders of the hidden mist held a meeting overnight. Everyone passed the proposal to strengthen the village's defense without hesitation. After all, they all knew what kind of people the Kagura clan was. If they were told that the Kagura clan rioted tonight, they would not be surprised at all. Immediately, the top leaders immediately dispatched a lot of mist ninjas to temporarily enter the village as guards. The team of Qishuang and the two of them received the temporary garrison mission. Although both of them were only special jonins, the people above knew that they were standard elite jonins. In order to guard against the possible attack of the Kagura clan, they could not let ninjas of this level idle. Calling people up in the middle of the night to strengthen the city defense, those guys above are really bored. Rubbing her sleepy eyes, Meditarumi stood on the village's protective wall and muttered. At this time, the protective wall was brightly lit, and the original garrison manpower increased by more than 10 times. You know, when there is no enemy invasion, the guard force actually plays a role of alerting and maintaining public order. In addition, it takes a lot of people to carry out the mission commission and other matters, and the top leaders of the Kirigakure cannot arrange too many people here. Therefore, the guard force on weekdays is only more than 1,000 people, which is not too many. Only when the enemy is discovered will the defense be increased. I guess the higher-ups heard some news, so they urgently strengthened the defense. You don't need to be so angry. Qishuang smiled bitterly and comforted him. Terumi Medi rolled her eyes at him and said seriously, Mom said that women can't stay up late. It's easy to get wrinkles and get old. Hearing this, Qishuang twitched her mouth and complained in her heart. You are still a 16-year-old girl. It seems too early to talk about getting old. Of course, he could only think about these words in his heart and didn't dare to say them out loud. Because anyone who dares to question a woman's pursuit of beauty will be regarded as an enemy. At the same time, in a magnificent temple on Myaboki Mountain, a large orange toad with a doctoral hat enshrined on the throne opened its turbid eyes. That is the great toad sage, the ruler of Myaboki Mountain, one of the 3 major inherited fairyland. Fukasaku, it called softly, and the sound waves immediately turned into a long frog croak, which spread out from the main hall. In a mushroom house not far from the main hall, 2 toads wearing cloaks were eating. Mother, today's insect dishes are a bit salty. Did you put too much salt? The green-skinned toad with white eyebrows and white beard said to a purple-skinned toad at the other end of the table. But no matter how much he nags, he still has to eat. He picked another fat white insect and stuffed it into his mouth. Eat, eat, eat. You only know how to eat. I've been busy looking for insects for most of the day. Why don't you ask me if I'm tired? The purple-skinned toad held chopsticks and pointed at the other toad and shouted. The family's meals are all made by it, a toad, and it has been like this for hundreds of years. At this moment, she was accused by her husband, and she couldn't help but get a little angry. Seeing his wife angry, the white-browed and white-bearded toad could only smile awkwardly and said, "Don't be angry, mother of the child. I'll let Wente and the others go out to collect food later." Upon hearing this, the purple toad became even more angry and shouted, "How can they collect any food with their clumsy hands? It's better to waste food." Its sons were all huge in size, and compared with the 2 of them, there was a world of difference. It was estimated that the 2 of them together were not as big as one of their sons' toes. If it hadn't watched them hatch from eggs and grow up slowly, it would have almost thought that they were not its own children. With such a huge body, it was pure nonsense to ask them to help collect food. Just as the white-browed and white-bearded toad was about to refute, a familiar frog croak came from the window and filled its mind. Fukasaku, hearing the call in the frog croak, it immediately understood that it was the big toad fairy calling it. Now you know what the chapter about killing the Kaguya clan members before the spell library is for, right? Also, I didn't plan to arrange for Qishuang to learn the toad fairy technique, so don't guess blindly. Chapter 273 Dream. Grandpa is calling me, mother of children. The toad with white eyebrows and beard put down his chopsticks and said in the direction of the hall where the great toad immortal was. That old fool doesn't sleep well and naps, but messes with the toads for no reason. The purple-skinned toad, who also heard the frog croaking, stuffed a few more insects into his mouth and said resentfully, "The great toad immortal is a ruler of the entire Myaboki Mountain, the one with the highest status and the highest seniority, and has lived for at least 1,000 years. The couple has lived for nearly 1,000 years in total, but in front of the great toad immortal, they are no different from children. It is precisely because of this that when the great toad immortal summons the toads of Myaboki Mountain, no one has the qualifications to resist or refuse. However, the great immortal often asks the many toads below to do some inexplicable things, which makes it suspect that the great immortal is deliberately messing with them for fun. Mother, you have to respect the great grandfather." Hearing his wife's dissatisfaction, the white-browed and white-bearded toad was very helpless, and then he urged, "Let's go quickly, let's go to the main hall first to see what the great grandfather wants to see us about." Although the great immortal only called the name of one toad, the great immortal often ordered the 2 toads at the same time. Therefore, both of them had to go. Then, amid the dissatisfaction and nagging of the purple-skinned toad, the 2 toads jumped out of the door and rushed to the temple deep in Myaboki Mountain to worship the great toad immortal. Although Myaboki Mountain is called a mountain, it is not actually on the ninja world. It is a secret place, a kingdom of toads, and an alien space attached to the ninja world. It is unlikely for anyone to find Myaboki Mountain directly from the ninja world. Only through the fixed passage connecting Myaboki Mountain to the ninja world can they have the opportunity to enter Myaboki Mountain. Passing through the grass and mushrooms that looked like giant trees, the 2 toads came to the temple deep in Myaboki Mountain and slowly entered the main hall. "Grandfather, what on earth do you want us to do?" As soon as they entered the hall, the purple-skinned toad asked the orange toad on the throne anxiously. Although it had many complaints about the great immortal in private, it only complained a little and did not confront him directly. It still had the proper respect. The wrinkled orange toad sat on the throne, slightly opened its cloudy eyes, looked at the two little guys walking down, and whispered, "Who are you?" Hearing this inexplicable sentence, the two toads who were stepping on the steps slipped and almost fell on the steps. "Grandfather, can we stop playing?" The toad with white eyebrows and beard raised his head and said to the great immortal with a wry smile. The great toad immortal looked very old and a little confused, but he knew very well that the great immortal was very clear-headed and was just teasing them on purpose. "I think it's just getting old and confused," the purple-skinned toad whispered, and then jumped onto a small platform on the left side of the great immortal's throne. That was its special seat. The couple were the only two immortal level toads below the great toad immortal in the entire Mizukage mountain. Therefore, there was also a place for them in this temple dedicated to the great immortal. Then, the toad with white eyebrows and white beard also jumped onto the special seat on the right side of the great immortal. "Grandfather, if you have anything to say, just say it quickly. The insect dishes on my table are cold," the purple-skinned toad shouted to the great immortal impatiently. However, the great toad immortal squinted his eyes and did not move on the throne, which made people wonder if he had fallen asleep again. After waiting for a long time, the great immortal still did not speak, and the white-browed and white-bearded toad became anxious. It shouted loudly, "Grandfather, please stop playing, I'm still hungry." Although they are both called immortals, the great immortal has reached the point where he can survive without eating or drinking. But the couple can't. They still need to eat and drink to maintain life. It seems that its words have worked, and it seems that the great immortal has had enough fun and only hears its old voice slowly saying, "Before, I had a dream." "Grandpa, what did you dream about?" the purple-skinned toad asked solemnly. Toads don't dream, so the dreams of the great immortal are not dreams in the ordinary sense. After countless verifications by everyone, it is found that the dreams of the great immortal are things that will happen in the future. In other words, it is a different kind of prophecy. And every time the great immortal dreams, it means that something big is happening in the ninja world. The great toad immortal said slowly, "I dreamed of a young man who was surrounded by wind and snow, had dragon horns, and had the power to change the world, standing in a ruin." The purple-skinned toad was dissatisfied when he heard it. "Grandpa always talks like this, without a beginning or an end. How can we guess what you are talking about? Besides, I have never heard of a human with dragon horns." "Child's mother, don't be impatient." The toad with white eyebrows and white beard stopped his wife from talking and turned to the great immortal and said, "Grandpa, are there still humans with dragon horns in this world?" The great toad immortal said slowly, "Of course, there are no humans born with dragon horns, but humans with dragon horns acquired later do exist." "Can dragon horns grow later?" The purple-skinned toad looked at her husband in surprise, but the other party was also at a loss. "That is the mark that grows after practicing the Dragon Earth Cave Immortal Art, which means that the boy has practiced the Dragon Earth Cave Immortal Art." The great toad immortal explained slowly. "Oh, I remember now. The magic of Longdi Cave can indeed make people grow dragon horns." The toad with white eyebrows and white beard suddenly realized the three major inherited fairyland have their own unique magic. Therefore, the characteristics of the three fairyland after cultivation are also different. One of the characteristics of Longdi Cave's magic is the dragon horn. However, the magic is too difficult to practice. Even among the toads, born and raised in Miyabo Mountain, only the couple and the great fairy, a total of 3 toads, have cultivated the magic. And the humans in the outside world rarely have access to the 3 major fairyland, and they don't even have the opportunity to learn magic, so it is rare to hear that humans can use magic. Therefore, it didn't remember for a while that human dragon horns can be obtained by learning the magic of Longdi Cave, a boy with the power to change the world. At the same time, the purple-skinned toad also realized something and hurriedly said to the great immortal, "Grandpa, didn't you say that the son of prophecy mastered the toad's magic? Could it be that there was an error in your previous prediction?" The great immortal had predicted before that the son of prophecy who changed the world was born in this era, and he also mastered the power of the toad's magic. but a person cannot practice two kinds of magic power at the same time. Therefore, it couldn't help but think that the great immortal's prediction was wrong. Not the son of prophecy. The great toad immortal shook his head and continued, I saw the boy with dragon horns standing on the same battlefield with the son of prophecy, but he is indeed not the one I predicted before. He also has the power to change the world. I think I should use less pesticides. If I use too much, I will get angry. I don't even have the mutatype. Chapter 274 Unknown. So is he an enemy or a friend? The toad with white eyebrows and white beard asked hurriedly. I can't see clearly. The great toad immortal shook his head again and whispered, I saw him destroy the city, and I saw him create the city. One hand destroys, the other hand creates. I can't see clearly whether he is good or bad, good or evil. After hearing the words of the great immortal, the purple-skinned toad said impatiently, then what exactly does the great-grandfather want to do by calling us here? The great toad immortal looked at the toad with white eyebrows and white beard on his right hand, and then looked at the purple-skinned toad on his left hand, and solemnly warned, Fukasaku, Shimmer, I want you two to go to Ryochi Cave. Tell the white snake immortal that within 100 years, do not easily teach immortal arts to human boys, especially human boys who can control the power of wind and snow. The boy also possessed the power to change the world, but unlike the son of prophecy, it could not see where the boy's future would go. The man's future was covered by a piece of wind and snow, and it was impossible to see why. It was the first time it met such a human who could not see the future at all. If it hadn't been for the dream of the child of prophecy this time, and the traces of that person's appearance, it wouldn't even have been able to detect the existence of that person. You know, the power of its dream prophecy comes from the feedback of the entire ninja world. Whenever such a person or thing appears, it is impossible to escape the perception of the world. This is an extremely unreasonable situation. Such a person should not be hidden in its dreams at all. In order to prevent the unknown good and evil boy from affecting the transformation of the child of prophecy, it can only try to prevent the birth of that person by asking the white snake immortal to limit the teaching of immortal arts. Although I don't know if it will work, I have to give it a try. After all, the future of that boy is really unpredictable, and there are too many variables. It doesn't want to see the day when that boy stands on the opposite side of the child of prophecy. I understand. The toad with white eyebrows and beard called Fukasaku nodded in response. On the left, the purple-skinned toad named Shima could not help but mutter after hearing the great immortal's instructions. Grandpa only knows how to torment toads. Usually, you only find trivial things for everyone to help do. Now you finally ask for an important task, but you want to go to Ryochi Cave to deliver a message. You are too good at ordering toads. Fukasaku on the opposite side hurriedly stopped him and said, forget it. Except for the two of us, there is no more suitable toad to go to Ryochi Cave in the whole Meiboki Mountain. As one of the three inherited immortal places, Ryochi Cave where the white snake immortal lives is naturally not an ordinary place. It is the country of 10,000 snakes and the hell of toads. It is naturally very dangerous for toads to go there. If they do not have enough strength, ordinary toads can only go there without returning. In the whole Meiboki Mountain, only the two immortal level toads can go to Ryochi Cave to meet the white snake immortal and come back safely. Then, it turned to the great immortal and asked, Grandfather, do you have anything else to say? After waiting quietly for 3 breaths, it found that the great immortal did not respond, so it called out again tentatively, Grandfather? Unfortunately, the great immortal squinted his eyes and still did not respond. It even heard a faint snoring sound. This old fool fell asleep again. Zimmer immortal muttered and shouted loudly, Grandfather, don't sleep, ha, ha. What's wrong? The great immortal was suddenly awakened by its sudden shout. Grandfather, do you have anything else to say? We are going to Langdi Cave now. Zimmer asked hurriedly, fearing that the old fool fell asleep again. Ryochi Cave? The big toad fairy was stunned for a moment and asked in surprise, what are you going there for? Grandfather, please stop playing, okay? Didn't you ask us to go to Ryochi Cave to deliver a message? The white-browed and white-bearded immortal Fukasaku said to the big fairy helplessly. After hearing what he said, the big toad fairy seemed to remember something, and then waved his hand, and sent him away. No more, no more, you go. Then, Fukasaku and Shima slowly jumped out of the hall. I don't know if my insect food is cold. Remember to heat it up for me when we go back, mother of children. On the way, the immortal Fukasaku jumped and said to his wife next to him, eat, 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 you only know how to eat. We are going to Ryochi Cave. Don't you hurry up and prepare? The immortal Shima scolded with a look of disappointment. Even if we go to Ryochi Cave, we have to eat enough to have the strength to protect ourselves. The immortal Fukasaku waved his hand and said he didn't think there was anything wrong with his idea. Then, amidst a noise, the two toads disappeared into the mushroom forest that looked like giant trees. On the other side, Orochimaru met a little boy from the Kaguya clan on his way to the Hidden Mist Village. Are you from the Hidden Mist Village? The little boy asked him carefully, holding the bone blade tightly. No. He smiled and replied. Sorry, I recognize the wrong person. The little boy apologized earnestly. He just attacked the other party. Fortunately, the man dodged his attack in time. What's your name, little guy? Orochimaru asked curiously with a strange look on his face. My name is Kimimaro. Without waiting for Orochimaru to say anything else, the little boy hurriedly disappeared at the end of the road with the bone blade in hand. On the protective wall of the Hidden Mist Village, the Mist Ninjas waited for nearly an hour, but still did not see any enemy situation. They couldn't help but wonder if the superiors had received wrong information and made wrong arrangements. Ahahamei Terumi stretched and yawned. She felt as if her eyelids were filled with lead, so heavy that she couldn't bear it. It's already this late, the Kaguya clan probably won't come. She rubbed her nose and said to Qishuang beside her. After a long wait, they also heard the reason for the sudden increase in defense. The Kaguya clan might attack. But like most people, she didn't think the Kaguya clan had the courage to attack the Hidden Mist Village. Stopping the handle ring of the Kyune on her finger, Qishuang said slowly, the Kaguya clan's base is some distance away from the Hidden Mist Village, and if they attack in large numbers, the overall speed will definitely not be too fast. In addition, in order to maintain their combat effectiveness and not be overly tired, they will definitely rest on the way, so it will naturally not be too fast for them to arrive at the Hidden Mist Village. However, such a long time has passed, I think they should be here soon. As soon as the voice fell, several black shadows flashed on the road outside the village, which immediately attracted his attention. With the help of the firelight on the protective wall, he saw that there were several masked Kirigakure Anbu. They were discovered by many other Kirigakure ninjas on the protective wall. Just as they were about to stop them, they heard someone shouting, "Don't do it, they are our own people." Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but stop their actions temporarily, and then they saw several Kirigakure Anbu quickly climb up the wall. Then, everyone immediately surrounded them, only to hear a Kirigakure Anbu say to everyone, "We are the Anbu ninjas who went to investigate the enemy. The Kaguya clan's troops are behind us, and will arrive at Kirigakure in no time. Please prepare to fight." Hearing this, the protective wall suddenly became lively. Everyone thought that the intelligence about the Kaguya clan's attack might be wrong, but they didn't expect that it would become a fact now. It was really shocking. Especially those young people who didn't know much about the Kaguya clan found it difficult to understand the Kaguya clan's crazy behavior. Using the power of one clan to fight against an entire village, this is simply crazy. Chapter 275 Breaking the Formation. About 10 minutes later, a little fire appeared on the road outside the village, approaching the village. As the distance got closer, the fire became clearer and clearer, and everyone could see clearly that there were hundreds of people holding torches, shouting and killing, and threatening the Kirigakure village. Although there was still a distance and they couldn't see where those people came from, everyone had a vague answer in their hearts. Not long after, a group of guys with bone spurs all over their bodies and 2 red marks between their eyebrows stopped 10 meters away from the Kirigakure protective wall. The Kaguya clan has arrived. Everyone of the Kaguya clan, what do you want to do? The Kirigakurenin asked loudly with courage, while standing on the protective wall. What do we want to do? A cold laugh came from the Kagura clan, and then they said, "We want to destroy this boring village, kill that ignorant kid, and create a ninja village of our own. Brothers, follow me." With a shout, the Kagura clan threw away their torches and rushed to the gate of the hidden mist village like a tide. Go. Seeing that the battle was inevitable, the commander on the protective wall immediately gave the order to attack. Then, many mist ninjas performed escape techniques together, shooting water dragons, water columns, water bombs, and electric lights at the Kagura clan below. There were even many people who threw many detonating kunai at the bottom. Boom boom boom. The explosion of the detonating talismans was endless. There were a few Kagura clan members who were slower in action and failed to avoid the detonating kunai and were immediately knocked to the ground by the explosion. But their disaster had just begun. The mist ninjas followed closely behind with their surging water styles. They didn't even have a chance to get up and were submerged again. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The lightning of the lightning style raged on the water surface, and several figures who struggled tenaciously sank to the bottom of the water. For a moment, it was unknown whether they were alive or dead. But because it was dark and the vision was blurred, and the Kagura clan was very good at close combat and very fast, it was difficult for the mist ninjas to lock onto their figures. In addition, the area outside the village was relatively spacious, giving them the conditions to move and dodge. Therefore, only a few people fell in this first round of offensive, and more Kagura clan members rushed up. At the same time, the Kagura clan members who came head on were not idle either. After pulling the mist ninjas into their attack range, they also opened their 10 fingers towards the height of the protective wall. Corpse bone vein 10 finger piercing bullet, corpse bone vein 10 finger piercing bullet. Small white bone spurs immediately burst out from the fingertips of their fingers, gathering into a rain of bone spurs and falling on the protective wall. Although those finger bone spurs looked inconspicuous and their momentum was far inferior to the various escape techniques of the mist ninjas, they were superior to most people's escape techniques in terms of lethality and speed. There was a scream, and many mist ninjas fell on the protective wall. They were pierced through the body by the small bone spurs, suffering extremely serious injuries, and some unlucky ones were even pierced through the vital parts and died immediately on the protective wall. The counterattack of the Hyuga clan was not limited to this. In the blink of an eye, they rushed to the gate of the hidden mist village. Corpse vein dance of early ferns, corpse vein dance of early ferns. I saw many Hyuga clan members put their hands on the protective wall and the gate and use their chakra to perform ninjutsu. Then I heard a strange sound coming from the wall and saw that the flat wall, like a germinating seed, white bone spurs suddenly broke through the wall. Seeing this, Nana Frost pulled Terumi Medi to quickly remove the protective wall. As soon as the two of them left, nearly 10 bone spurs broke through the wall where they had just landed. In the blink of an eye, the nearly 200-meter long protective wall on both sides of the village gate was immediately covered by clusters of white bone spurs, turning into a bone spur hell. There was really no way to land, so the mist ninjas had to evacuate that section of the protective wall. Unfortunately, many people were unable to leave safely. They did not avoid the bone spurs that suddenly grew out of the wall. Like candied haws, they were pierced into a string by the bone spurs and died painfully in that bone spur hell. Not only that, the bone spurs did not stop moving after breaking through the wall. Instead, they grew rapidly, like spring bamboo shoots that grew over pass. In a few breaths, they were as thick as a man's embrace and more than 2 meters high. The 200-meter long protective wall turned from a bone spur hell into a bone spur forest. Crack, crack, crack. A series of tiny sounds came, and Terumi looked closely and saw spider web-like cracks on the protective wall where the bone spurs grew. Because of the growth of bone spurs, the structure of the protective wall was severely damaged. At this moment, it was overwhelmed and on the verge of collapse. Soon, those spider web-like cracks covered the entire wall, and then, in the surprised eyes of the mist ninjas, the nearly 200-meter long protective wall exploded. The defense of the hidden mist village was breached. It was hard to believe that the Kagura clan was so fierce. Kill, kill. Then, everyone saw the Kagura clan members rushing in from the collapsed gap. Take care of yourself, this time, we will act separately. Qishuang reminded the girl next to her, and without waiting for her response, she rushed out in one step. Terumi was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect him to make such a decision this time. When she came to her senses, the other party had disappeared into the night. "Asshole, how dare you abandon me?" She stomped her feet angrily, but she was helpless. The other party didn't even give her a chance to refute, so no matter how dissatisfied she was, it was useless. On the other side, after Qishuang left the team, he quickly found a tall building and climbed up. Looking around, with the help of the firelight, he could see the entire battle situation. He saw that the Kaguya clan rushed into the Kirigakure and immediately scattered, starting to destroy and kill. Although there was no news of any famous masters in the Kaguya clan of this generation, the overall average level of the Kaguya clan was very high. Almost all adult Kaguya clan members were at the level of special jonin. In terms of physical skills, ordinary ninjas could not take advantage of them. In addition, the night was hazy, and they rushed into the village. In this complex street battle, the number advantage of the Kirigakure side was greatly weakened. The entire battle situation immediately became extremely chaotic. The area within a radius of hundreds of meters near the village entrance was all ignited by the flames of war and turned into a sea of fire. This race born for war slaughtered every living being they saw, whether human or animal, and none of them could escape their killing. They bloomed in killing and went crazy in destruction. They are enjoying the joy brought by the battle. What a terrible bunch of lunatics. Seeing such a terrible scene, Qishuang sighed helplessly. With only a few hundred people, they broke through the defense of Kirigakure. This combat power is really extraordinary, but if they want to destroy Kirigakure, they are still far behind. Compared with the entire Kirigakure, their number is too small. This is the most fatal flaw. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.